Board of Selectmen Workshop, Wednesday, November 7th, at 6:30 to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody, for coming. This is great.
I think this is gonna be the one nice night of the week, and then it's gonna rain for the next 3 days again, right?
Don't say
Probably,
that.
probably. Oh, can I borrow, you have a pen I can borrow? I'm sorry.
At this point, I think I'd rather take rain than
thank you, sir.
snow this early in the
Yeah.
season, so.
Did you, oh, okay.
Now we're gonna go over the Selectmen Retreat and Goals.
If you don't mind, could we take Bob first, and then we can get him on his way?
Oh, I definitely mind.
Okay.
He is on the town payroll, right?
He's on
He
the
works for
town
us as far
payroll.
as I'm
That's
concerned. Is that correct?
absolutely-
Wait till 11:30 to put him on the
I'd
agenda.
like to be able to see.
Yeah, Bob, come on up.
Do you wanna have a seat
Why
at
don't you sit over
the
here next to me?
table? That would be nice.
Yeah, come over here. I don't bite.
So we gave you the presentation on the pavement management system, you know, the challenge
Yes,
that we have.
$1,000,008.
Thank you.
$1,000,001 just to keep us where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
$1,000,008 to make any meaningful
you.
progress. Those numbers do not include drainage, engineering,
Right.
signage, safety, guardrails, none of that.
Right.
You also know that we haven't had a system or a process for allocating Chapter 90 monies, how we're going to use it. We haven't had a firm rule on whether we're going to use it for equipment or not. You spent one year $193,000
On a truck.
on a rubber-tired excavator. And also, we haven't been doing it as part of the budget planning process.
Right.
And MDOT is really starting to get antsy about, they want to see the comprehensive plan for the year. They don't want it coming in dribs and drabs. When they send you the award of what you're going to get, they want to see a plan that comes along that says, you gave us X, here's how we're going to
Right.
spend it. So, we gave you the memo the night that the pavement management system was coming in. That's 2B. We got some good news. It's $66,000 increase that we learned of shortly after that. So we're looking at somewhere around $400,000 a year. And then I provided the memo of October 17 to Bob, and I asked him, and he went to a training down in, was it Northampton?
Yeah.
When you went down to meet Daryl with the Chapter 98 engineer down in Northampton. And I asked Bob to think through how he would like to allocate his Chapter 90 monies. And so I'm gonna ask him to go through this discussion memo, get your reactions based upon how you want it tweaked, what your reactions are. Then we'll develop a more formal policy for him to adopt as part of his standard operating procedures after you guys sign off.
Okay.
Good evening,
Good
everybody.
evening. Floor is yours.
Bob?
As we handed out allocation for the Chapter 90 monies, the 10 of us memos propose a method of allocating the use of the Chapter 90 monies the town shall receive to provide an orderly planned use of its annual allocation. Go down, you'll see emergency at 5%, which is for washouts, sinkholes, catch basins, drainage failures, and the like.
Mhm.
So if you have like a cross culvert, it going across a road, an old steel pipe rotted out, collapsed, the road shut down, the funds are there to make that repair. And it's defined as critical situation, that requires immediate attention or action to preserve the infrastructure of the public roadway.
Okay. And this is 5% of the overall 300+ thousands of dollars, is that correct? Or 400,000?
For almost, yeah, just.
Yeah, and every year you might have some unexpended funds from the prior year. You had set aside 5% for your emergency, but it just never happened. You never got that giant washout. You never had that bad storm.
Okay.
Or you said you were gonna do South Street or North Main Street, and you thought it was gonna be X, but it wasn't. It was a little bit less. So you'll take whatever your leftover unexpended funds are,
Mm-hmm.
add them to the money for the coming year, and then you would apply these formulas
I see
to
what
it.
you're
So
saying.
every year, it's rolling forward.
Under the same percentages that are based on this outline?
That's the intent that Bob's gonna describe to you.
Okay, go ahead, Bob, sorry.
And then if you look down, we got routine maintenance and drainage at 20%. And that's for crack sealing, minor localized repair and the like, which is defined as regular use on roads reasonably in good condition to prevent deterioration from the normal effects of the traffic and pavement age. So if you have a good road in good standards, and there's a few cracks here and there, so you're just gonna go in and crack seal it. And then the next step later down the road, you know, you could chip seal it and bring it back to good standings and keep it in good standings.
Okay, can I, because I've been doing some reading, ask this really silly question. I thought that crack sealing and chip sealing needed to be heated,
Yeah, that'll be,
and we don't have a heat machine.
no, this will be all subcontracted out. There's
Okay.
companies that do it professionally and have all the equipment.
These are all, okay. I wasn't sure
Yeah,
if this was
this-
in-house or out-house.
This would be out of house, this will be
Okay.
all bidded out.
All right, thank you.
Just in your, did you come from a community where they used to bid this out themselves?
Yeah, I mean,
What's
you
the typical
can,
rate
you
exactly?
can, I would have to look at the bid sheet, but you can either go by state bid or you can go out and get your procurement, 3
Okay.
bids,
So there is a state rate bid as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, they have actually a page, if you have a project going on, they have everything listed, all the equipment, all the materials, and you can actually do a estimate off their website.
okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking that, Kim. This is one area I know
I have no
nothing
idea
about.
myself, so I'm glad we got an expert.
Are we all set with the routine?
Mhm. Thank
Then
you.
if you look down, you're gonna see the equipment for routine road maintenance, which is the stuff we would need, such as a hot box, a cutoff saw, plate compactor, a 2-3-ton roller, which is a small roller, a cement mixer, trailer, and the like, but no event of rolling stock plan. And this is defined as essential equipment needed necessary to carry out the routine road maintenance.
Would you explain to them what a hot box is?
Yeah, I have no clue. I don't
Um,
even know what a cut saw is.
There's different types. The one we'd be interested in would be a trailer type, which it's a box on a trailer which can hold 2 to 4 tons of hot mix.
Oh,
And it actually has, just like your furnace, it has Beckett burners on it. It's run off of diesel fuel. And you can set the temperatures and it has a timer on it, so if we go out and get 2 ton of top and we're patching and at 10 o'clock the skies open up, shut the covers, bring it back, plug it in, and we can finish emptying it the next day instead of throwing the material away.
Okay, as long as you keep it hot.
Yeah, as long as you keep it
and
hot.
that's how you can do hot patch?
Hot patch.
Yeah, and that's, cold patch is 2.5 times more than hot asphalt. And cold patch is a temporary repair. where-
Absolutely.
And asphalt's
More
more
permanent.
permanent, which you can have access to getting hot mix during the winter. There's only one plant that does it. So you go down and they get the mix, come back, start patch, and then you finish out that next day through the winter months.
And this is like the hot box is, you just rent it?
No, we.
It's a purchase
You-
item?
It's a
This
purchase.
is a purchase item?
Yeah. Where patching and stuff
Okay.
is so time consuming. You go down in a dump truck, you get 2 ton.
Oh.
It's real time consuming.
Oh,
Your
okay, I'm
product's cooling
sorry.
off, now it's going to waste. So this will maintain that temperature to work with it and get the
Okay.
proper compaction out of it.
What's a cut saw?
It's like a chop saw, it's designed to cut pavement,
Oh, cut
pipe,
paper.
it's multi-purpose construction saw.
We don't have one of those?
No, we borrow it from the sewer department.
I was gonna say, if there's water, light and water and
But
sewer
the
has
last time
one.
we bought it, I guess, when they needed it, it didn't work. And if you don't use it properly, which, if you go down too deep, you can wear out the guard and it takes out the belt. So there is an adjustment. It's just, it's an important tool, and it's too much to keep borrowing and bringing back and saying we broke it. And
Understood.
And a plate compactor?
yeah, it's just a, it looks like a lawnmower, but it's a steel compactor, and it has a hydraulic motor. The belt turns it, and it
Compacts the
vibrates,
dirt.
and it sets the dirt or the asphalt.
Okay. Thank you.
And with the hot box, so in the wintertime, when there's potholes, you can fill potholes with from the hot box in the wintertime versus using cold patch.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
excellent.
it's gonna be cheaper, and obviously, you gotta watch the weather, and, you know, if they're full of water, you'll have to blow them out or melt the ice out. I mean, you can't just put it on top of ice
Sure,
and snow,
right.
you gotta prepare the hole.
And
Yeah.
what is the approximate cost of a hot box?
Anywhere from 28,000 to 50,000, all depends which one you get. Because they have bigger ones. The bigger ones, I think you're gonna run into a problem with, because it's gonna be a weight capacity problem where you're gonna require a Class A license
Oh,
because of the weight. So a 2-ton hot box, you could hook it up to a 1-ton, send 2 guys out.
That's perfect.
And it's more universal. You can get them that go in back of dump trucks, but now you're putting 100-pound propane cylinders in that truck. This is,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
this is much safer this way.
okay. Thanks, Bob.
So then we drop down to safety, which is realignments, guardrails, signage and the like, which is defined as improvements of the public way that enhance protection and standards in accordance to the Mass DOT regulations. So, I mean, if we looking to do a road over and there's been a lot of accidents or it's a trouble spot, we wanna look into redoing the intersection, and we have to adjust the guardrails, or might add to them, or adjust the heights, and put up proper signage to today's standards and Mass DOT regulations. We all set on that one?
Mhm.
Then we have preventive maintenance, which is full depth, utility patching, minor leveling, thin lift overlay, chip seal, and the like. And that's defined as a road in need of preventive maintenance that is critical zone of pavement deterioration. So if you go down the road and you see a crumble spot, 8x8, you're gonna take that chop saw, cut off saw, whatever you, pavement saw, you're gonna cut the square out. You're gonna excavate down your 3 or 4 inches compact and replace with new asphalt and compact, and seal your joints with emulsion and black beauty. And that patch isn't gonna be moving around, it's gonna be part of the road. And repairs like that.
Okay.
And chip seal, what's chip versus, like crack seal? So what's the
Crack
difference?
seal is, well,
It's a
especially
crack,
last
yeah.
winter, you might have noticed had a bad frost season, so you might have seen longitude seams opening up and cracks. That's like a rubber material
Yeah,
that's gonna fill that gap.
yeah.
And then you do that, you may have to do some shimming, and you'll take and chip seal it, and that'll bring you up into good standards and hold you for a while.
Chip seal, think in terms of, although it's a different product, as if it's a driveway seal,
Like a
which
coating.
then, you have small pea stone.
Okay,
Bob would know the terms better.
all right.
It lays there for a
A
day,
week.
2, 3, a week.
Yeah.
And it's not your grandfather's chip sealing. If they do it in this region, the way we do it up north, they now actually come back around and vac it all up, and you keep the stone product.
Yeah, chip sealing,
Back
it
up.
works good, but your phone's not gonna stop ringing, because everybody's gonna complain of the loose stone, and
Yeah.
the kids fell down on the bike. And they
Yeah, that's what they
require
do
you
in
leave it
Fitchburg.
down for a week because you want the traffic to set it and push it in.
It
And
works
then,
really well in Fitchburg, and they do
Yeah.
that versus filling the potholes with.
Then after a week, you go out with the sweeper and pick up what you
Yeah,
can.
yeah, it works well. Okay,
It gives you it, one, seals the surface, and secondly, even if you have a good surface, I wouldn't use it on a Baldwinville road, but on lesser traveled areas, it gives you a new wearing surface.
mhm. Okay,
And I think we're on the backside.
We are.
Then we go to structural improvements at 15%, which is overlay, additional thickness, chip seal, and the like. And that's defined as keeping the shape of the road contour and thickness and resist the traffic loading. So I'm sure everybody's been in town and you'll see some shoulders dipping down, wearing out. So that's why you want to reestablish the thickness of that, bring it back up and shim it. And then you can go into a chip seal and try to bring that road back, get some time out of it versus other strategies.
I think you may have heard the engineer refer to, I think, as a poor man's paving.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty much, it's buying you some time and focus on some other more troubled areas.
We have a few of those.
Then we go to reconstruction. That's a complete reconstruction, full depth reclamation and the like. Defined as complete reconstruction and full depth reclamation as road exhibits a weakened pavement base layer. So you all seen, I'm sure, some roads that it's all cracked, it's destroyed, it's just holding together like a puzzle. So this is where you would bring in a reclaim, which recycles the material right on site. You regrade it, compact it, then you put down your 2.5 inches of base, and then your 1.5 inches of top coat, and you got a brand new road. And that's your top dollar, in reconstruction where a lot of money could be spent.
and the average cost per mile of reconstruction?
I would have to look at
Roughly.
this, that's the highest, but I think that wasn't up near
100 to
10.
125 a
Yeah.
foot on
Yeah,
a
it's-
22-foot, 24-foot wide layout. Depending upon the condition of the drainage and utilities that might be in the road, how many catch basins you need to
You
deal
know, your
with.
gate boxes, catch basins, manholes.
So that's like $100,000 plus or minus
Per mile?
He's saying 125.
for
I said per foot.
$100 a
foot.
foot.
So you go for a mile, I mean, plus,
So you take like 800 feet, you're gonna spend over 100 grand.
yeah,
It doesn't get you very far.
No.
no. Hence goes back to the $1.8 million.
Yeah, and then if the roads that we can catch, it would do a cold plane and, do a layer over it. But you do have, a lot of roads that need this reconstruction as well.
Yeah, based on the report that gentleman gave us, there was a lot of
Yeah, I just started.
roads.
But you'll remember, he also suggested that the limited funds you have are better put towards, and this is gonna be very difficult to explain to people,
Mhm.
why are you chip sealing, this road that looks just fine?
Preventive
When
maintenance.
mine is falling all apart. And the problem and the challenge is, theirs isn't gonna be that much worse next year, but if you don't deal with this road this year, it will start to go downhill fast. He
Yeah.
showed
Right,
you
so
that.
you've
Seen that
There's
issue
a
in town.
curve.
A lot of roads that we haven't upkept, it's just, we pave it 1 year and 5 years down the road, it's total junk. But when you get preventative maintenance, I mean, you can get it out 20, 30 years. Look at New Hampshire.
Well,
New Hampshire's
you're not
littered
gonna
with
get
cracks
20,
in it.
30 years out of a new road, pavement today because they changed the oils. It's not like pavement 30 years ago. It compacted, it bonded together, it lasted.
So what is the average useful life of a road today?
If you
If you
prepared
did
it
it
right, and did it
100%
right,
as
I
you're
mean,
supposed to.
you'll get 10, 15 years and you'll start seeing trouble.
Okay,
You know, where you have to go on the preventive maintenance.
Yep.
It's just not what it used to be, because it's, you know, you got biodegradable oil, and they're using some recycled stuff in some of the plants,
mhm.
so it doesn't bond like the old stuff.
So you're saying 15 years would be when you need to repave the road again?
It could go longer, it all depends on your preventive maintenance.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Routine maintenance, you know,
Yep.
if you stay with it.
That's why I think that Carter was saying is it's gonna be hard to explain to the people, why are we doing the preventative when their roads are falling apart?
Absolutely.
When you are, just what you were asking is
Mhm.
we wanna get longer out of the roads that are in good condition.
Right, you wanna
and then
trade it.
That's why his percentages are higher
Yep, no,
in the reconstruction and,
yep, I would make that recommendation too
That's
as
why you
well.
wanna try
More
to
preventive
save the
maintenance.
roads that you got.
Mhm.
That's why it's, we
Right,
gotta
more
split this up.
preventative.
I mean, are you ever gonna see the light at the end of the tunnel? And no, but it's a right program to
right.
get started on. Then last, we have engineering. It's used for any structural changes, drain improvements, public roadways, designs, guardrail, intersection alignments, or like needed for grants, defined as necessary for professional service required of the town. So if we're doing a project, with Mass DOT, and they need to adjust the intersection or crosswalks or sidewalks, it's gonna be professionally inspected out to today's standards. In this, the above percentages will determine on the basis of a 3-year rolling average.
Looks like a reasonable plan.
I wish we had more dollars to allocate.
Oh, absolutely.
But to Cameron's question, you rebuild a road and, Bob says, well, I think you're gonna get 15, 20 years out of this. And that's what the taxpayers expect, you completely rebuild it. But around year 5, 6, 7, you're gonna start getting those longitudinal cracks that he,
Yeah, you got
Mentioned,
cracks,
and
you'll
if you
get,
don't crack seal 'em,
some wear, and
the water will get down in there, and then by year 12, maybe you need to take an inch off, and put a fresh coat on to, make sure it has its strength and it's waterproof and everything.
yeah, it depends on your routine and preventive maintenance. If you have a new road, how long it'll last you. If you stick to a program and do it, yeah, you'll see 20 years or so out of it.
So I have a few relevant questions. First question is, how did we come to these percentages here? So we have $400,000 kind of total. So that's $20,000 per 5%. So I'm looking just down here, and what was taken into account when these were coming up? And what is this something that you've seen in other communities, and how they spend it, or is this specialized towards Templeton and the state of?
Well, in other
Roads.
communities and specialized towards Templeton, because I'd like to see the money and going into the roads to try to bring them back.
Mhm.
And I think this percentage, what we come up with and what we can do for each one, it's a start. It's not gonna be 100%,
Mhm.
but we gotta start somewhere. And then maybe next year, we might have to make some adjustments. We might need more in this area until we get started and get the program going.
Okay.
I think it's a good starting point.
And Carter, when we talk about some of these routine maintenance, and no, not routine maintenance, equipment for routine maintenance, that's the one, so it's 5% of the 20,000. Do we have any plans, and this might even be a question for you, to spend
planning.
capital planning money on any of these items here, or is this Chapter 90 funds, we're setting $20,000 aside?
At this point, based upon the condition of the rolling stock, and an attempt to absolutely devote as much money as possible to roadways, we discussed and made a decision, and executive veto on some desires, that we were going to propose ruling
Sorry.
out
Okay.
payments for rolling stock.
Okay.
Not gonna buy trucks not gonna buy backhoes, not gonna buy excavators, not gonna buy multi-purpose sidewalk tractors, those higher ticket rolling stock. Bob made, I think, a fairly good case for how a limited investment would improve his abilities to do better road maintenance. So instead of just patching the same pothole
No, I've been
week
asking
after
those
week
questions for years.
after week,
Oh, we don't have any way to do that.
cutting it out completely and removing it and getting
It's
in
not funny,
your,
John.
your 3 inches
Have you not heard me ask those?
Multiple times, Diane.
of base material and 1.5 or whatever he thinks is right for the roadway, and getting it sealed will be a better long-term situation.
And it is.
So, we each have had experience, he had started with, I think $17,500 or $20,000 for emergencies. Because one big culvert blowout, one good road blowout can easily run that. So that was just 20,000 divided by 400,000, it's 5%.
Yep.
How we say,
The engineer had mentioned, 65,000, 75,000 he thought we should be spending on
75,
crack sealing. And Bob had a different category for drainage.
Mhm.
So I asked him to put those together, just because it was a little bit neater and cleaner. So 20% is 80,000, so that's the engineer's 75 plus some drainage, or depending upon the drainage project you have, maybe a little less. The routine road maintenance, he kind of had in his mind already what he wanted to head towards. And that's when we came up with the 3-year rolling average, because he can't buy a hot box with 20,000.
Mhm.
But we also didn't want to set it at 4,000 and then have somebody down the line say, oh, I can spend 40,000 on equipment every year. So it was, after that, it was an iterative process between he and Adam to try to say, okay, here's the engineer's report. Carter wants the policy to line up to the engineer's report.
Right.
Um,
Did we use chapter 90 money for snow and ice last year, or the year before? Have we done that?
You can't.
Okay.
I don't remember that time.
No, we can't, I just had a thought.
So then I have one last question. So in terms of this, actually, I guess it's kind of a two-parter. So I know one big thing is continuity in the town. We want continuity. That's why we did the management policy, or the fiscal management policy. So is this something that we're gonna be looking at again next year, on how we're gonna be spending and budgeting these chapter 90 funds again, and revisiting this as a select board, or is this gonna be with you, or how do we plan on approaching this in the next, say, 5 years?
My hope is that, depending upon what your reaction is to this, over the next 2 or 3 plus weeks, we'll go from here to a formal policy.
Okay.
Whether it's gonna look like the ones we've done on the efficiency and health insurance and some of the others, or it looks a little bit different, because it would become part of the budget planning process. We would then plan the use of chapter 90 monies using however this gets settled.
Okay.
And then when the budget comes in with the chapter 90 spend plan, we'd attach the policy there that slots it in the best way we think, so that it would either be in his standard operation procedures manual, which I think is probably the best place to do it. It could be in the budget planning section. It strays a little bit out of the financial management policies. I'm not sure where to slot it in just yet, but that is the plan to
Codify or
expand, exactly.
Okay.
That's the plan.
I think if you're allowed more, if we end up getting more chapter 90 money over the years, and it's a substantial amount, I think that would be a good time to revisit it.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
And at the end of, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to,
no,
at the end of the 3 years, we could see how it's going to.
so in reviewing this, I I haven't gotten through the whole thing. I had a lot to read because I had missed a meeting. 1.1 million and 1.8 million is a lot of money that we don't have, and we just can't come up with that. And I was wondering, since we have a fiscal management policy, as Cameron has referenced, what is the possibility of using, we have our fiscal management policy states, which I believe it's in here somewhere. Are we talking about something? Yes, we are. To do with this evening, there's like 50% and then 35% for general stabilization and then CapEx and OPEB. Why couldn't we set aside like a small percentage for roads? Like 3% or 2%, or, I'm not talking anything astronomical, but this is a must. And my one decision that I do regret is the excavator. And we were given a lot of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
And I will own my decision that I said yes to that.
Okay.
And I do regret that.
Well, I think
Is
we
there a
can-
way that?
I think we can look at that.
I'm asking the rest of the board, is that something
I
that
actually
you
that
like,
approach. Yeah.
don't like?
If it's.
Are we
it's
allowed to do
feasible.
that?
I think if it was feasible.
I mean,
if
I'm
we-
not saying 20%, I'm asking for 2 or 3%.
Yeah, I think if it is, if we look at it, I mean, this is kind of putting us on the spot, we haven't really looked at any of the numbers, but
Yeah.
I think if there was anything that would be top priority coming out of that free cash, I mean, I hear it every day.
But this
From Turner
is.
Lane down to,
Yeah, people
South-
talk about.
South Road, I hear.
Yeah.
Joe, I'm sure you're probably watching this, but yeah, it's something that I think we need to give special attention. So if there was a priority to spend it
Especially
on that, it
after
would be.
just what I've only read so far, I've gotten halfway through, and you were all, at the meeting, and I looked at this piece of it and what happens on the curve, and, the, what did they call that, like a special, please forgive me, a PCI, and, I'm trying to absorb all that, so please forgive me. But, is there a way that we could, just a little bit of free cash each year towards our roadways?
Well, I think this might tie into my next question here, so we could probably even piggyback off that. Looking at 5 years in the future and looking at this spend plan now, and this might put you on the spot, so if you don't have an answer, I don't want to put you under the gun, we can catch up later, but with this spend plan here, are we just spinning wheels? Are we actually looking to improve these roads with the money we have, or are we just maintaining status quo? I mean, how do you see this money here being allocated over the next 5 years, and do you think there will be significant
If you're
improvement?
just staying with the chapter 90 money, you're just improving the roads.
Okay.
If you read the report,
Because if you,
unless you follow the report.
Yeah, I wasn't here for
In
this,
years
so.
past, we've done very little in the preventative maintenance.
Not
Chapter
even-
90's either gone for equipment or road reconstruction.
Yep.
There's been very little spent on
no,
preventive maintenance.
right.
Any
At
of this
least
other
this
stuff.
way,
And
we're going to
nothing.
improve preventive
This
maintenance.
is
It should
actually,
extend the life.
this is actually an improvement, what Bob is trying to do.
It's a
As
step
far
forward.
as, it is
Okay.
a step forward, but it's not
So, we're not gonna see significant improvement, but obviously with the case, if we take care of the
Over
roads we're
time you
paving.
will, but
So it'll be a slow, gradual
by the time you,
improvement, sticking to something.
over 5 years, now you're gonna be starting, the other
It's-
stuff's gonna be in the same condition of what we're trying to do preventive maintenance and routine maintenance on.
Okay.
we'll
Um,
actually be doing some of that, Cameron, whereas we haven't been.
But that doesn't negate the fact, there's still, to keep everything the way it needs to be, they're looking at 1.1 million.
1.1
And
into
then
actually
to actually get
improve
improvement in the next 5 to 10 years, they're saying 1.8
8
million
million a
per
year.
year.
So, what
So
if,
$400,000, we're still short about $1.4 million
what if we
to
took
even fix what we need to fix.
Diane's idea here? I mean, so we have the emergency, which is the 5% here, which is the washouts, the sinkholes, the catch basin, right? What if we made that money up out of free cash to give you that 20,000, you can use that $20,000 somewhere else on here, so we absorb it from, something like that.
The challenge is if you don't have the free cash,
Well,
If you go with the
there's a
formula
waiver in our policy that if we don't have the free cash, we don't do these things. Is that an
But
accurate
I think
statement?
Carter's point is that if we don't have the free cash, then the emergency fund out of the chapter 90's money isn't allocated, so.
There's zero that
And you
year.
haven't appropriated the
Mhm.
money that's sitting in.
I mean, a perfect example
Right,
would be
so we
that
don't-
Pale Factory,
Mhm.
that just opened up and it turned into a disaster.
Oh, that down the hill right there with that whole, yeah, I live right
So
near
that's a-
there, and that's
that's
been a
perfect,
disaster.
Perfect example of what you would use it for.
Mhm. But a lot of people were complaining to me about that, and that one person couldn't barely get out of their driveway.
Yeah, okay, so it's, like I said, it's something you gotta act on immediately and,
I'm saying in general, could we allocate something out of free cash in addition to what Bob's plan is? Like, so we have 400,000 and we change our financial policy and say 2% of free cash will go toward roadways. Then we would have this policy in place, whatever that policy may look like. Maybe we don't like this one and we change a little bit of it. And however that policy comes out, that's how that policy will be allocated, and this 2% or whatever it is you said, maybe you all won't like it at all, and I'm talking for
best-
nothing.
The best way to deal with it probably is to simply make sure that Bob submits to the capital committee as part of his capital request every year, a request for supplemental, let's just use a number of 2% for a moment.
Mhm.
And let's say that we expect free cash in the short term, once we get through these first 2 years, which are unique for all the reasons we know.
Right.
Let's say that we think free cash is gonna be in the neighborhood of $750,000
Mhm.
in the normal course of events. That may be a little bit optimistic, but that would be 15,000 a year. So we just say to Bob, add to your capital requests every year $15,000 for additional capital improvements to roadways. And then we can deal with it in the capital budget as monies are available.
As long as that's in the policy. But I'm saying if it's not in a policy, this is this board. In years to follow, if it's not in a policy somewhere, it's not gonna be followed.
Well, please remember, I have to be able to get a truck across the road.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I'm hearing a consensus from the board. I'm not sure the best way to deal with it. I'd like to, if I could, take that consensus, if I'm hearing it correctly, and try to come back with a proposal as to how to
Okay.
best
Okay.
accommodate your
That's
various
amicable.
concerns.
Okay, thank you.
In a manner that also respects all of our other,
And just to reflect the consensus was that we need to pay more attention to the roads and
we need to
allocate
find some
more
more, we need to find
funds.
some more money beyond just chapter 90.
Right.
Yep.
That's
Yes.
why you see on the road, equipment for routine maintenance, we need trucks and we need a backhoe, we need this, but I wanna see the money go into the roads.
Can I see a budget book over there?
Yeah, I
Someone-
haven't
May I see
seen
it
that
for
yet.
one moment?
Certainly.
We have coming up in fiscal 18, okay, so this is gonna be a year out of date, but we have coming up in fiscal
20?
20, a very small
Right, you hate it
drop
when you're like a year, you have to be 2 years ahead.
in our debt service. It's only about $10,000. And then we have the following year, another drop of roughly our share on the sewer project improvements, which is roughly $80,000. So it's my intent, as we did this year, well, it's my intent to pass the idea along to this young man over here, as we did this year, you'll remember when that $90,000 of debt came off, we used it for the fire truck.
Right.
So it's my intent that next year, as this 10,000 comes off, to make sure it stays in the capital budget.
Right.
Makes sense.
And the following year, when that $90,000 comes off, to make sure it stays in the
Capital budget, right.
It's the only way you're gonna make any progress. You've gotta put some tax levy money towards your capital program.
Right, and that makes sense.
Because if all you do is rely upon free cash, you'll never
No,
make that. So I think we can come up with a solution that will add some money to the budget over the next year or two that you'll be happy with. Give me a couple of weeks to kind of
Sure.
sort out
Sure.
how to do that.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Bob.
So
Does,
now-
does this seem in general?
Yep.
It is a change. It means a little more attention to that planned maintenance, the Pale Factory Road where you cut it out, you build a stretch, and then a year or two later, you chip seal it all. It means going out of the construction business ourselves for some of these, and more emphasis on that maintenance.
Road
that-
maintenance.
I think it's a
I think that's what we should
catch-22, because I think there's a lot of people that are waiting for their roads to be repaired, such as South Road. I know Turner Lane was on the repair list.
Got the total repair.
Yeah, and so I think,
There's a total repair.
yeah, I
read
think
that.
last year or the year before, we had disclosed that we were gonna attend to that as of this fall, and that wasn't seen to. So I think you're gonna get a little bit of flack on that, but I think a lot of other people will understand, that we need to take care of these major roads that are already in good repair, because we pave them every, 5 years,
Right.
and extend the lifespan out a little bit. So I think we'll get a little bit on both sides for this one,
Well,
but
it was kind of funny during that meeting, he talked about, Depot Road up there.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I don't know why Depot Road's like this. I'm like, well, maybe because there's like trucks that, like tractor trailer
Every
trucks.
day, 20,
100,000
30
miles.
times a
Every
day.
single day from Graves. So, I mean, can you imagine the weight up and down that street? So then they wonder why. I give Depot Road another 2 years max, and that's gonna be a complete disaster.
I think Depot Road, when was the last time that was taken care of? Because I've been back here in town since 2003, and I do not remember that being redone. And
hasn't
it's
been.
okay, so it's lasted a while, but there are some major potholes. And I used to go around and I take pictures, and I would
Yeah.
just send them to Bud and then
Okay.
Alan, and whenever they got to them, they got to them. I won't do that to you.
Sorry, I'm addressing some of them tomorrow, so.
Okay, well, I mean, but the problem is we do coal patch, and,
Right.
I mean,
that's
there's a
what I'm
major
saying.
one on South Road, and it
paying-
just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger because cars can't see it in all the rain that we've had, and they just keep bubbling. So, it's not, I won't do that to you. So, it's just, I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're paying
It's
$115,
awful.
$130.
It is a waste of money, and I had been saying that.
versus
oh, they even
$60
highlighted
on
Turner
grass
Lane in this
roads.
presentation. I didn't realize.
Yeah, turn lane, yeah.
No brainer.
Good
But
God.
if you have the proper maintenance equipment.
Right, and that makes a lot of sense, and I had asked if we could talk about sharing with another community. I asked if there was any way we could heat up the material. I asked if there was any way, nope, nope.
Oh, Gardner's on a
Was
hot box.
constantly what I was given for an answer, so after a while, I didn't ask anymore. I didn't know what a hot box was. I would have asked if we could have, I would have much rather have done that than bought an excavator.
Oh, I would have loved to. I would have bought a rubber tire backhoe, but a hot box,
Well, right,
stuff
but
that pertains to the road.
Whenever I asked, the answer for me was no. No, there's nothing you can do. No, I'm sorry, Diane, no, nothing.
Now,
Oh, I'm here.
moving on,
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Moving on, he's also working, total different subject, snow and ice. He's working a snow and ice plan, I would assume, and looking at cost analysis between other options between
Yep.
snow, sand and salt versus, some salt products.
He'll be submitting,
Not to throw you in the
his
spot.
No, I'm
his
already
capital,
working on
he'll be
it.
submitting for his capital needs. He understands the need to calibrate all the sanders. It's his intent to put everybody through snow and ice training. And
Everybody?
Based upon everybody.
Any truck driver, mechanic. I mean, if you want me to touch on it a little bit, I can.
Please.
Wow.
This year is pretty much gonna be same as last year, but there's gonna be improvement on the trucks getting out earlier. Not going out a half inch in snow, putting sand down, it's a waste of material. You want the sand on the bottom.
Where the road is.
Yeah.
Right.
So you, for one, you have traction, and, for scraping it off. I mean, the sand that we're using, it's not really a good winter road sand, it's got a lot of clay in it. And the amount that we're mixing salt with, it helps it, but it's not great. So I am working on getting quotes on a, fabric salt shed. I've been working on trying to figure on an average winter tonnage for salt. And I'm coming up with between 2,000, 2,500 tons of salt.
Right.
It all depends where you get the salt. The salts, in Chelsea is $49. I think we're paying 59 where we're getting it now. So you probably look.
Chelsea's a state bid, right? Wasn't Chelsea the state bid?
Yeah,
Sorry, I keep kicking.
I believe that, yeah, they're on state.
Yeah, 'cause I think we went to, was it Morton Salt or something, or?
Yeah, somewhere west, I don't
Yeah, New
know.
York, I think it was New York. But anyways,
We went out to bid on
So, just rough figures, you're probably looking at 150,000 just
Easy,
for
salt.
salt.
yeah,
And then roughly, I'm looking to be about 40,000 for a salt shed to store it. So that's where I'm at this stage of the.
okay.
Just so you'll know, we have re-advertised for CDL, the temporary person. We were not able to get them slotted in. We've advertised for on-call plow operators, and we will be advertising for hired equipment as well. All those ads will be out next Tuesday.
Okay, so
Is that his backups?
Well,
are you talking about contracting out?
we have the
I
town
was gonna
mapped
ask
off
that.
for plow routes, and there's 7 routes. I don't know if you guys seen
Yep.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at 4, 5 of those routes, one of them's like 30-something miles. That's
That's a lot of miles for one truck.
per one truck per sander. Average plow miles and treating miles is 8 to 10 miles to stay with your roads. Anything beyond that, you're considered going backwards. So where this plan was already done, talking with Carter and Adam, bringing in subcontractors, that now I can take a subcontractor, a 1-ton, a 9-foot blade or bigger, and put it on those bigger routes, the system to help keep up with that. So that'll be a fix for that.
Still contracted, pay Union State wages, right?
No, we can set the rate for
We
these.
can,
Yeah.
okay. That was,
They'll be a little bit below what we like, but it's what I think we can afford. And remember, we're down staff, and we have equipment issues.
we're down
We
2
will-
staff, right?
The new 1-ton, one
believe
at this
one.
point.
1, and how many trucks are we down?
Well, the ones that are out of service, we got the new H8.
How's that?
That's good. There's a couple of bugs that's being taken care of under warranty right now. The computer reconfiguring the truck.
And when's the next one, when's the other one
I mean,
coming?
1-ton won't be until the telling us
Under winter,
February.
Oh,
probably
my Lord.
It's,
February,
you
March.
can,
Okay,
you can just, don't plan on it for
Okay.
this winter.
got it. So you'll be using the,
Older equipment.
well, not just the older equipment, the bigger trucks, or the bigger, the other, what's that, not the bulldozer you got, what is the other thing you got?
Front end loaders?
Front end loaders?
Yeah. Front end loaders, we'll be using a couple of 10-wheels. The new 6-wheeler. We have another 6-wheel, just sand truck. The 1-ton, the old 1-ton, and Mark's pickup.
Pickup, okay. All right. All right,
I'm happy that we're contracting out.
well, it just makes it a little bit safer.
Absolutely,
Oh,
Everybody.
absolutely. It's, it's
absolutely.
trying to
I'm
do
so happy that we're finally
away
doing
with
that.
complaints and getting earlier jump on it and stay with it and
And I'm happy that we're
keep them
doing that
cleaned
now.
up, and
It-
You should notice.
Contracting out is more expensive.
I understand
But-
that, but it's safer.
Once if you can get onto a regular replacement schedule, and this is the way you approach things, you can, over time, reduce some of your capital expenses on equipment.
Right, but, right.
And you're gonna manage all this winter?
yeah, between me and Mark, I've been talking with Mark. We're gonna be doing snow reports, taking temperatures, measuring the depth of the snow, how cold, wind directions. So if there is a big storm and stuff, it'll make it easy to apply with FEMA and whatnot.
And we'll still do the same meetings, any type of high-risk storms this winter? Okay,
So those reports will be,
readily available.
yeah, a lot of towns use subcontractors. I think we had 5 or 6 in Westminster itself,
Okay.
and it was a big asset.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
in keeping the roads safe.
Very much so.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
welcome.
didn't mean
If
to
you
add,
have any follow-up questions, we'll
No,
talk
can I
about
just
this.
say how no, I mean this in like the best way. I'm so impressed.
It'll all come together. It'll take time, but we're.
Look at how much you've already accomplished. In my eyes.
1 month.
We've given you a lot.
He didn't even offer a gummy bear.
well, you can have one
Oh,
punch. Yeah, well,
Oh, those are so sour, I can't.
don't be a hater.
Thank
What's wrong with
you.
you?
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
No, you're not coming back to our
Don't
meetings.
put me down. Thank you, Carter.
Thanks. All right, so are we gonna move on to,
Okay, so
are we all done?
Yep.
Okay,
thank you, Bob.
thanks, Bob.
You all set with me, Carter?
Thank you for taking.
Thank
the
you,
time.
everybody. We'll
Yep, thanks for
be in
your
touch.
time.
See it all warmed up for you, Adam.
This is for you.
Thank you.
Stay close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Roger,
Good evening, Adam.
Good evening.
it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I like 11 by 17 pieces of paper.
Hey, you know what? I really like this.
All right, so we're gonna go over the selectmen retreat and goals. So, Adam, is this on you?
Have a good evening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Carter, Holly, thank you for having me tonight. As you can see, what was enclosed in your packet is a draft. I'm hoping to get feedback. I've already spoken to almost all the department heads and members of this body, and some of these, not everybody here, but as the asterisks indicate on here, it originated from your September 19th meeting of the retreat and your goals. Now, the question is, I want to start off by saying if you want to put this all together on a tracking system or doing it separate. That's up for the board to decide.
When you
I-
say separate, you mean 19 with the new stuff?
Correct. And, or we could just keep it all together here, just so we're aware of it, and
This
these.
is really overwhelming for me, let me tell you, but it was really good to see it all in one place. But it got a little confusing to like look and then turn to the back and go, okay, P for plan, and then this is huge.
That was it.
But there are some lofty goals.
Thank you. It was a challenge. It was trying to get
No, it was
everything
great.
together. And
It was just for me I had to keep going back to look at it. You know, it's like, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time?
imagine putting it together.
No, and I appreciate all of your work.
Thank you. So if I can start, we'll go with the administration of finance. Now, I'm not sure if you wanted to go line item by
No, we
line
can go
item.
pretty quickly, I mean, we can all read.
Okay, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman, the commit.
You guys have any issues? I mean, this is a long report, we'll be here for an hour just going over this. I mean, obviously, we have questions or comments or concerns, and we could definitely send Adam directly emails response, unless you have something specifically that you can see right now that pops out at you. Because most of the department stuff these came from the department heads, correct? And some input from the Board of Selectmen members?
Yeah, the ones with asterisks, Mr. Chairman, are the ones that the select board
I gotcha.
put in. Those are usually at the top of the departments.
Right, I see that.
And the department heads' goals, which was included in the Collins report, was also being tracked. So I worked with each department head. They're aware of what their goals are, as well as the select board goals. And as you know, it's critical that communication be all around, where we have a system in place where the department heads know where we want to go and where the select board wants to go.
Now, has the department heads already seen a copy of this draft?
They will be receiving it,
Oh, they
but
haven't
this is
received
just
it,
a
okay.
draft right now. I don't want to be sending it out without the select board having the final say.
Understood.
But he did go around and talk with them of, here's what came up. First, what's the status of what's going on? You had that added to your quarterly reports. And then say, you know, to the department heads, here's what the selectmen would like to do. What do we think this cost is gonna be? And when do we think it's, practical to implement it? Because it does need to be spread out over the couple of years. There's no way you would get all these things done, in 1 year.
No, some of these might take more than 3, 4 years, potentially.
So my question was, you have the wage study and the update all job descriptions together, with a cost of 15,000, and you have a note of number 2 under collective bargaining. And I remember, saying I wanted a wage, to do that under the, I wanted to do it as a grant program. And I wanted to do the whole thing, a personnel manual, a wage study, and job descriptions through the department, through the DOR. And that they have, Winchendon did it, and they got it all done, and through a grant program.
Was that through the DOR or DOS?
DLS, no,
Well,
through the
Division of Local Services is within the Department
Department
of
of Revenue.
Yep.
So I was a little confused about that, because that was, I swear that was on my goal sheet.
The reason for
So,
the-
and then they were in separate years. I'm like, how can you do one before you do the
I
other?
think we can do the job descriptions in-house, and those,
Yeah, that was,
given the
Okay.
staff that we have, it's probably a good way to do them
Adam gonna do
department by
those?
department.
Or is each
Uh,
department head gonna do those?
I have a questionnaire that we have the employees fill out.
Mhm.
The department head then reviews that, makes comments, and then we have model job descriptions from several other communities. We can cut and paste, same as when we brought you the clerks for the Development Services
Okay,
Office.
so that's what you were thinking.
So,
Okay,
and then once you have that, that forms the basis of the job study. Now, the reason that we put the wage study off a little bit is we're in negotiations this year,
is that
right
why you
now.
put collective bargaining?
right now.
Is that what
So
all
if you
three
do the wage
unions-
study this year, you're not gonna have it in time to use it for collective bargaining,
Right,
and it's gonna sit on the shelf. So the best time to do it would be
an off year.
in 3 years,
Oh.
as you're about to
Okay,
go into your next wave of collective bargaining.
so why is there the cost 15,000
Because that's probably what it'll cost you.
To do the study,
to have an outside firm?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that was the cost for that we're
okay.
estimating,
we're guesstimating.
guesstimating.
Oh, no, that's fine.
We just
I
have
was,
to make sure that outside service looks reasonable at towns and geographically where we're at
well,
versus
we have,
bringing in the
yeah,
state averages.
yeah, no.
No,
Step one is always to either identify what you use for comparables,
Mhm.
and to then have them provide you what they want to use for comparables. Because Gardner may be a little bit bigger than us, but they're in our marketplace. We have to acknowledge
Mhm.
that somebody who
Go there.
could commute to Gardner easily.
Okay,
And it's really kind of neat because what they pay their highway workers is the same as what we pay ours, which I thought was kind of weird at first, but they are in our marketplace. Same
So-
dollar figure.
And you always agree that, you provide a set to the consultant, you have them come back to you, and you agree that set of communities before you start, because you want the debate to be about, was the data good? Did they analyze the data well? Where do you want to be on the spectrum? You don't want the debate to start off with, Mr. Consultant, you didn't use the right set of communities.
Okay, and then the, school liaisons group had a 0 with nothing in there at all, like no date to start, no nothing.
Yeah, in that one, we were looking at getting more information on specifically, because that was mentioned as a select board goal. Do you have more information about that? Because this is a work in progress, and I'm still gathering information.
I'd love to join that group. Meaning, I don't, does anybody, who brought that up? Did I bring that up? Who brought that up?
The only 2 copies I had were from John and
Me?
Mr. Chairman and you, yes.
Okay, so it's.
Which one was this?
This is
School
for the
liaison group?
So I wasn't able to actually track that one down, and I was thinking, like, which member
You gave
actually
that back
submitted.
to me, and I guess I would have, did you bring that up, John? Then it must have been me.
I don't remember
I
bringing
think
it
I've
up.
made mention of that in the past, but I didn't hand you a sheet.
So it would be more to have better communication with them
Yeah, Bill Bridges.
and to, right, instead of to continually, I feel like we're like always tearing them down and to have more talking with them and more what's going on with them and how can we help them, how can they help us, how can they be, and I'm talking for lots of different things, community calendar, what's going on with them, making sure that they don't have things planned on town meeting day, just a wide variety of things. I don't think whether it has,
I
it
think
can
we
be a
can
group,
peel the
it can
scope
be-
back on that, so like the community calendars and planning for, would fall really kind of with Carter and Dr. Cassavant, cause they can discuss at will. I think, maybe, like, I think what you're going for here is like the constant communications for budget season, so we meet, say once a quarter, that we would stay in constant contact, what are you guys doing, any
anything.
major
It was just
updates,
more to
events?
talk about what other things can we do
Yep.
to help improve our relationship with them.
I had a conversation with the chairwoman of the school committee, Margaret Hughes, about doing something like that. And Carter, I believe you had conversations with Dr. Cassavant as well to say, there is a need to have that communication, to go, let's start something, even if it's just the chairmans of Phillipston, Templeton, and the school committee, as well as the executive officer, and they all just meet informally. I think
So
that's,
that's really more what I was going for too. Just, there are things that happen there that we know nothing about until the last minute.
and we should know,
And
and we
we
do
don't.
things here and they don't know,
They
so.
have events over there like, oh, well, we didn't know about school opening day until the very last minute. Well, we should have known about that. And then we're scrambling to go.
Yep.
They want the select board to be there, but then we don't, I'm like, I was able to go at the last minute. Were you able to go, John? I mean,
Yes.
but,
School opening, yeah.
yeah, so it's just sometimes
Like
like we don't
groundbreaking.
know until 2 days ahead of time, but yet you know that they had that planned way ahead of time.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so what kinds of things do you have going on in the coming year? When is graduation? Did you know that it's May 31st this year?
No.
There you have it. So see? So
But
I
think that's
want to
easily
know these
available
things.
to us. If we went onto the website, but I think
But I'm just telling
if
you
you
that
boiled
it's
that
May
down to the
31st
main
this year.
problem is that we just don't have that line of communication. And I
Right.
think if we restore that and force the chief executive officer of both the school and Templeton to just not get along, you guys get along great. I'm
No,
sure
they
you guys
do
have-
get along great.
But to just kind of sit down and have lunch or whatever, have a discussion or phone call, set up meeting times,
But it's
once
the
a week or
trickle
whatever.
down, it's the trickle down thing, like, again, like I
They're in
said.
it. They feel the same pains. When I had discussed
I
this with
know.
them, they feel the same way. So I think
Right, and
this
we
is their
need
step
to
in the right
communicate
direction.
with them too.
Yep.
No matter when that might be. And again, I mean, Carter's busy, now it's budget season, and now it's, and again, we're in early November. I mean, like I said, Carter wants to sit down and do that, but I feel like Carter has better things to do with his time than, I wouldn't mind saying, all right, well, maybe I'll go on the website and I'll look at their school calendar. But again, now, can you guys remember in the back of your head that graduation is May 31st? And we I'm gonna be there, my son's graduating, so, but I'm just saying that we should go to those
John's
things.
always there looking,
I go.
looking sharp in his black suit. Last year it was hot. I remember we were in the suit and tie.
It was hot.
And
Yeah,
very hot in that building.
but we like going to those kinds of things,
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
we support them and they,
Yep.
you know, and they support us, and there are things that we probably forget to tell them. You know, we don't mean to do it on purpose, nobody means to
It's
do
almost
that.
like almost like a calendar share type thing. We should do calendar share either quarterly or.
Okay, so we're doing the
Something like
thing
that.
tonight, did you
So
share
you
with him
understand.
about the,
Yeah.
here's the calendar for all the things that are going on, the
Did we share
the
with the-
countdown?
With the
You've
school
already
district?
shared that?
No.
No.
So, and here's, okay, so here's the countdown, maybe they wanna know some other things that are going on with, you know, so like,
Once we have some of the dates locked in.
Yep.
If you all want them here, yes, we would share those as quickly as possible.
Right.
Well, even if they don't wanna come, as long as we can start sharing some of our.
but, you know, again, like Carter's gonna be busy with budget season,
Mm-hmm.
and you're busy doing certain things, and I'm not.
Well, just till May anyways.
You know, that's all. Those were the things I think that I was probably thinking in my head, and Cameron was probably thinking some other stuff, and, you know, along those same lines too.
Absolutely, yeah, you hit it on the head. I mean, it's just
That was good.
communication, something they just keep our
Everything's
boards
been
in touch.
about, right, and,
Because they're dependent on what we do for budgets and we're dependent on what they do
Dependent
for
on
budgets, but
right,
I think if we get a good grasp on what they're thinking well in advance, a year in advance, because during their school committee meetings, they're talking about what they're looking forward to for next year. They're talking about collective bargaining, they're talking about, you know,
Right.
social programs and field trips and stuff, so I think it's good to just have that reporting with one another to say,
Right.
this is what we're feeling, this is what they're feeling.
so there
and-
you have it.
And include
So-
Phillipston in that as well. I think Phillipston's
Yes.
Yeah,
a big part of
yeah.
that as well.
Yep,
So I think, and like I said, if there's other, I mean, you wanna go through this line by line, I mean, obviously, there's a lot here, so I mean, or do you guys feel more apt to take this home, look at it, read it, ingest it, digest it, and then, if you have questions, concerns, misconceptions, just, either send out them an email, text message, call them, come on in and sit down with them. Would that be more advantageous versus taking up, time tonight?
I don't know, I've already
The
read through the
intent-
whole
the
thing, I thought
intent,
we'd had it long enough.
Is
It's up to
to,
you.
try to have what you think is close to
I
the
mean, this,
final
on this drop down,
draft.
we have to have this done by, we act on, this is our goal-setting retreat, and then we have to finalize our goals and objectives by next week. So how, John, that's the 14th, so we should have already been reading all of this.
Mhm.
I mean, I only had a few, questions. I mean, I think that Adam got everything right based on what we had talked about. I mean, mine was just, they were really just those questions. I mean, the dollar amounts, I had just wanted to know where you, just things that I had talked about on mine. I couldn't speak to other goals that people, I mean, I thought all the goals were great. I think that the timelines, were good. I looked at the department heads' goals, and they seemed like they were, in line with a lot of the things that we had for goals. That's how I felt. Adding the firefighters and the EMTs, finishing up. I mean, I read the weekly reports, everything was in line.
Okay.
That's only how I feel. I don't know how the rest of you feel. I've had
Doug,
time
yeah.
to digest all this.
Doug, you have anything?
No, I mean, I think, you know, Adam did a really good job of summarizing it. I mean, there's some things that you probably still have questions about, and you certainly reach out to us if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Timelines look reasonable. I think some things might be able to be done in less than 4 years, but it certainly looks reasonable. I mean, again, it's just a goal sheet, so, you know, it's not like just because the finish is in 2022, if we can finish it in 2021, we do, you know?
It's a goal sheet, but once you all adopt it, it becomes part of the budget guidance passage, which I send out to the departments that say, here's how much, you know, do this, 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 oh, PS, you need to look at what the selectmen's goals are for 2020 and take those into
It's 3
account
years.
as you set your goals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need monies, you need to be thinking about making sure they're in the budget. If it needs a policy, the draft policy needs to be there.
The reason, like, if you're looking at bi-weekly and paid time off is because of collective bargaining.
Correct, those are
So
things
that
that
all
are gonna
made
take
sense to
several
me.
years.
Yeah, and
Finishing, implementing, starting, I mean, this, all of it, I thought you did a great job.
thank you,
And
Deb.
thank you so much for taking, I mean, it was, Carter had like all these things like pinned up to the wall, and to like take all that, and Holly too was like typing it all in, and I'm like, okay, you guys, I don't know how you did all that, but kudos to you.
And remember, this is really, it's still in its infancy. This whole budget planning process has been involved, and I think it's better each year. But it is an evolution.
I think that we did a goal-setting workshop, last year, and this did not come out of it, and I'm so happy with this year that we have this document, and that we can look at it and say, yes, 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 question, yes, 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 yes. So, thank you, both of you,
Well, and I also
thank
want,
you.
I also wanted to add too, I did, when I spoke with all the department
yes, but
heads,
when it was
I did make sure
prepared, it
that's something
wasn't.
that's reasonable within what we can afford as a community
Yeah, and I'm sticking to it.
and the timelines. I didn't want to set anything unreasonable. So it's really
Well, they were
finding
s-
that
They were
balance.
supposed to be SMART goals, right? And that's, Cameron had talked about that, specific,
There's no
measurable,
P here.
Actionable.
actionable,
Okay.
oh, I would,
Timely.
or,
can
well,
add that.
aggressive.
I don't know if that's gonna happen, but at least have the opportunity.
So,
So with our new schedule,
Yep. Thank you. Good job.
we'll be making some tweaks to this tomorrow morning, and it'll go on your agenda next week. Now, our true drop dead is November 28th, so it can go out with the
So you
guidance
lied.
package.
you lied to me on here?
Well,
And
not,
here I just
not
told John it was
necessarily,
next week?
because in future years, I'm not sure we're there just yet. In future years, it would be
Sorry,
nice
John.
to have this for the all boards meeting.
Yes.
It would be.
So we'll put this on the agenda for next week. If you think it's ready to be adopted, you can go ahead and do that, and then we'll have it for the all boards.
Sounds good.
I have
So
no.
I would ask that between now and next
To
Wednesday,
jump in the right direction.
you really look it over, so if there's a dead spot, or a question, we get that worked out between now and next Wednesday night.
Could you, put something in for that school liaison group? But I don't believe it needed to be a group.
Well,
Do you-
we've already started, if I can, we already did start, attending, I was at the last NRSD finance meeting, but the communication factor that you do want, I could certainly
Oh,
speak
okay,
with the
so whatever you're
superintendent.
gonna add to that.
And I'm not sure if anybody in this, I believe Julie indicated an interest on going as well.
Yeah, she
But
wanted to
anybody
go.
else, I'd be more than happy to go with the meeting, if we wanna put together a group, that's up to the select board on where you wanna go.
Maybe at this point, you just wanna say improve school communications.
There you
'cause
go.
The
Yeah.
school liaison group, I got a sense that
I'm just kidding.
they're not
Yeah.
gonna be into that.
Yeah.
I agree.
So just improve communication with, that's probably
Yeah.
more what,
Improve communication.
just, yeah. Like, we want to have better communication with them. We want to provide them with more.
Absolutely.
Anything else, anybody else have anything for Adam? You can stay there, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind.
He's got more.
Oh, he's got more?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We got a lot more.
You doing the projections?
Yes, sir.
He is.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay,
Next
You wanna go back
part.
to your office for a second?
another one, it actually was changed since,
Okay.
this is a newer, modern one right here.
How many changes were it?
I don't have the-
I like that.
Yeah, newer and modern one. I have some right over here. You look at mine right here, I have the old
Yeah,
change.
it looks like $26 million, okay, yeah, I see.
Oh, this is updated,
This is updated.
so I can
Oh, yeah.
use this one?
Remember to make
Use this
sure
one,
it's
yes,
back.
please.
Susie? Okay.
Uh,
It's two-sided?
It's two-sided. I could print them out,
No,
like
it's
separate
fine.
pages from now on.
Amazing.
I'm just trying to save paper and
I
cost.
know you are, but next time don't.
Card, I don't,
Something to consider for,
I
Why
can't
do I
believe
listen
you
to
just
Carter?
said that.
Carter gets on me if I print too much paper, so.
I
Carter
have
said you used too
I have
much
a paper allowance, I have a paper allowance.
He doesn't want me using color either, so. But with that,
Too much ink.
Perhaps, if I can just interject here for a second.
Yes, go ahead. Doug.
Perhaps a way to fund additional road is maybe we set a percentage of the vehicle excise tax that's collected. Because again, the vehicles are what use the road.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
we're collecting
That's
that
what they're
tax,
supposed
so
to be
maybe we
doing.
say 2% of whatever the, excise tax is, gets added to the chapter 90.
Then I won't get my
Or
police
something.
officer.
Something
Just
like
saying.
that.
so with the revenue estimates, it's a nice suggestion. Whatever the committee wants to do moving forward, it's up to you. Now, this was in accordance with your financial management plan that was reviewed while this was being put together, the revenue estimates. Now, the first item on here, as you can see, is the personal property taxes. This number, the recommended fiscal year 2020 number, this was settled last year. We're looking at getting 100% of that. So we would end up with that figure right here. That's based on 100%. I'm trying to move relatively because we have quite a few items here. Real estate taxes.
Can you just do one thing with clarification on these columns? So you have the requested FY 2020 and the administrator recommended FY 2020. Who's requesting what?
Oh, okay, I'll clarify that.
Yep.
Mr. Forts, Selectman Forts. There's a budget fiscal year 2019 here,
Mhm.
and we have the requested fiscal year 2020. That's from the accountant.
Okay.
When the accountant submits theirs. Now, granted, there's some years you have to look at, there's a 3-year rule that is looked at, and you look at the high, you look at the low, not for all these, but for most of them, you take the average, and you try to find a number that is, like, for example, new growth I was gonna get into, that's a conservative number, because there's that 10% rule we have to also follow with the state. If we go over that, we have to provide justification, so it's very critical that we estimate as closely as we could get it.
Okay, so
For-
then
for our
FY
budget.
2020 is coming from the accountant and it's kind of following state recommended, and then the administrator is what Carter and you have decided. Okay, I just need that clarification. I thought they were both coming from you guys, so.
I know that too.
I didn't know what that meant.
I'm like, why are you putting one thing and then changing it?
He was on one side, he was on the
Yeah,
other.
that's what I really needed clarification for.
What kind of office
Kelly
party is
goes
this?
through and updates the actuals for 18.
Okay.
Then she does the math, and following whether it's the real estate tax, the 3-year rule, whatever it
Yep.
is. And then I sat with her and with Adam. Adam had to read the financial management policy and the revenue section, and then take a stab at what he thought I would do. And then I changed a couple things.
Just a couple.
Well, I'm just looking at the end number here, but go ahead with yours.
Oh, you're already on the back, we're going through this?
No, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
kinda
No,
like,
Adam, do your thing.
do your thing,
Okay.
please.
Don't watch Joe.
Thanks, Diane.
So
Just saying.
the debt exclusion here, as you can see, we are at $1,780,000. If you look at the footnote or the note, this is the pay additional for school. So we came up with that number. We felt was a fair and appropriate revenue estimate. Now this is where we started applying the 3-year rule, moving into supplemental taxes at $7,500. Now, with that note right there, that's where we're looking at weaning off that. So if you could see some years, you have a lot higher revenue coming in. And then you move to tax title.
What exactly is supplemental taxes? Can
Supple-
somebody please remind me?
Supplemental taxes, if I can, I worked with the assessor on getting these numbers, and Carter, can you clarify really?
Sure. All property is assessed as of its value on January 1 of the calendar year. However, during the course of the year, we often have buildings that move to getting a certificate of occupancy. Under the old system, you had to wait until January 1 of the following
The extra money.
year to get them on. So you adopted the statute that allows you, if something moves through the process, gets that CO, you would issue a supplemental tax bill
Okay,
above and beyond what their normal and ordinary real estate taxes would
Okay.
have been. Please just remember, the flip side is, if the building is demolished, destroyed, they can come in and ask for
Money back.
a reduction in what their tax bill would have
so
been.
you're looking at weaning, like you're not going to.
Working that down to zero, as we did with tax title and surplus.
Okay,
So a couple of things that really stuck in the craw of the advisory committee, we're trying to
so you're,
move down.
like, they didn't wanna use that anymore, so we're, like, where we said, okay, so we'll do this and we'll, okay.
Yeah, we're
All
trying
right,
to,
I sort of remember having those conversations.
we're trying to
All right,
move a
thank you.
little bit closer to
Sorry,
where
Adam.
they'd like
Well,
to be.
I
And
want,
then-
I wanted Carter to elaborate on it because he could actually give a better, I could just give you like a really quick, general, and
Okay.
he would give a more
That's fine.
thorough one.
So, and ultimately, if any money comes in under that category, it would just ultimately fall down through free
For free
cash
cash.
to the next
Yeah,
year.
any revenues above estimates and expenses below estimates all roll into free cash.
Okay, thank you.
Tax title, the state doesn't allow us to do that anymore for revenue. So, moving on to motor vehicle excise taxes, 1,025,000.
Isn't that a number that the state gives us? Doesn't the state provide the excise tax number? No, we
They
calculate.
provide the ability to bill all these people and the values that we have to apply.
Okay, so they don't estimate it, they just say, this is what you're gonna, this is what you can.
They sign off on what we want to use once we go to set the tax rates.
Okay.
But they don't provide an upfront estimate.
Okay.
And is this one following the 3-year rule?
This one is,
Okay, thank you.
okay, penalties and interest on property tax, we went a little bit on the conservative side with 62,500. Then the excise tax at 25,000. Tax title, as we indicated earlier, it's the same as the aforementioned one above. Pilots and chapter rollbacks, 7,500 here. Treasurer fees, 1,000.
Oh, stop.
Yes.
Pilots and chapter rollbacks, is that, that's not with the light and water department, or is, no? Okay, thank you.
That's chapter land, like 61A.
Okay, thank you.
Treasurer fees, $1,000. Collector fees, $40,000. Tax lien fees, $12,500. Town clerk fees, $6,500. Police detail fees, $2,500. Fire department fees, as you can see, that's, yeah. Planning board fees, 4,000. Assessors fees, as you can see, that's one of those ones where it's better off not expecting it. Miscellaneous fees, 10,000. Rentals, $85,000. That's like your cell phone towers and all that. Alcoholic beverage licenses, $15,000. And keep in mind, anybody can ask me a question as we go along, just
Yeah, keep going.
speak. Miscellaneous licenses, $50,000. Building permits, $1,000. Plumbing permits.
I think you're getting out of line.
Yeah, wait, okay, let me get a piece of paper here while I'm doing this.
Yeah, building permits is gonna be.
Yeah, building permits is 50,000.
Why is
dollars.
plumbing and electrical in such a decline?
Plumbing and electrical, what
We're
happened
going
is,
from almost,
I
6,000
love
down
this
to
smile,
1,000.
well, what,
We're working with a little deeper immersion than we did this year than we are the last time.
Yeah, this is good.
see, plumbing and electrical, what happened is that there's a 75% go into a revolving fund and 25%, so this reflects that.
25%.
25%, okay.
I apologize for that. Sometimes it's hard to follow these lines. Okay, we were at electrical at 2,000. Electrical permits 2,000. Fire department permits at 15,000. Board of Health permits at 25,000. Miscellaneous permits at 5,000. Fines and fortunes, that's parking fines at 750. Dog fines at 500. Court fines at 4,000. Miscellaneous state revenue 47,500.
Are we supposed to be getting an increase in the, dog and court fines?
I was thinking that too, but I'm afraid to like
Because of
wanna
public policy
increase
change?
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the bylaw change, excuse me.
Yeah, well, no, not that, because, from my understanding, there's, what is it, dog licenses? We don't have somebody that shows up for a court to fight those dog licenses fees when they don't actually license their dog.
I think that
think we
the
partnered with
way we
TCTV.
pursue
spoke.
those that don't license their dogs has some substantial room for improvement.
Mhm.
Um,
I mean, it's not pennies, but it's a couple $100, but I don't know if that's gonna influence.
I think there's some substantial room for improvement.
Okay, is that still in discussion? That hasn't been
It
committed to?
is.
Okay.
It is. It would require some bylaw changes, and also the way we approach the court would need to be different.
Okay. And just for reference, that was something that, since we share one with Winchendon, I believe, that he doesn't show up to court when it's something to fight for the dog license fees, so therefore we lose those. So that's something that we need to change almost immediately. And that's what I was referring to.
All right, thanks, Kim,
Yep.
for that information.
So this miscellaneous state revenue, is that like lottery funds, art grants, that kind of thing?
Miscellaneous state funds, revenues, I remember we went over that. Could you,
To be honest with you, I'm gonna have to get the breakdown from Kelly. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
because
can't
it's,
remember what goes in there.
but we were,
An email could just be sent to us, all of us, just as a FYI, not that we can respond to.
for the miscellaneous state
altogether.
revenue?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get you a breakdown of that, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't mind knowing that myself.
Investment income, we're at 10,000. Cemetery income, as you can see, that's sale of surplus inventory timber.
We're weaning off of that too.
Yeah, we're waiting off of that
Because we
one.
told the advisory committee that we wouldn't use that anymore.
Mhm. Yes. Miscellaneous revenue, 12,500.
We'll get you a breakdown from Kelly on what she puts in that also.
Thank you.
Okay.
NRSD snow removal, this is the $25,000 that we will not be getting anymore.
Good thing I sent him to the meeting Monday so I could find out.
Why?
Really? Because they bought a new plow truck that has a 9-foot plow on it. It's a pickup.
So they're gonna plow themselves?
So I have a concern, safety concern with that. And
Do
if
you want to
you
explain that to me, John,
go-
please?
apparently the school bought a new pickup truck with a 9-foot plow. And they're gonna plow their own, they're gonna plow themselves to save themselves $25,000. My concern is, especially when we use the school for a shelter situation.
Yeah.
Or the amount of snowfall that we have and the size of that parking lot, by the time the 9-foot plow gets done with one half, he's gonna go back and do the other half all over again because it's gonna snow. And it's gonna continuously snow, and it's snowing, the snow's not gonna be removed as fast.
They have liability coverage for that?
I would assume they have liability, it's a school, I mean.
Okay,
all
then.
the
Is that
grounds.
addressed in the lease contract? There's a lease contract signed with that school, correct?
Yeah, needs to be redone, it's one
I
of
know,
those
but
things
it's a
that-
regional school and not,
You have.
Town property.
Right.
The short answer is
So-
no.
So it says snow removal is not addressed in that contract, okay.
We asked, if you'll recall,
they could have gotten out of that a long time ago, but they did it to.
open the
So
district
we gave
agreement.
them a budget, and did they
And-
put $25,000 in it? For snow removal on their line item?
For last year,
Mm-hmm.
they did,
And we're not, so we're not putting it in for 2020.
that's correct,
For 2020,
Well,
right.
we
Next-
gotta look at
next-
their line item,
right,
John.
Well, they'll
Yes.
probably keep it in there, cause we pay the budget anyway.
that's
to
true.
Pay their
Yeah.
snow removal person.
No.
I'll
Well,
look
we
into
pay
that.
85, if they pay us 25,000, we're paying 85% of the 25,000.
Right, right,
We We pay 85% of everything. they
I'm
spend.
understanding you, Carter, I'm just giving you that look.
Okay.
Do you know what look I'm talking about?
I'm not sure, but
So I'm just, my only other,
it's cutting to the bone.
my only other concern with this is, if something should go awry, do they have a fallback plan to call the town to help them with this, or are they gonna call an outside contracted company to come assist them in plowing?
That will be entirely up to them, because
It
it's
would be.
not town property.
Well,
It's a
I
regional
wouldn't make a
school
mountain out of a
district.
molehill. I would definitely look into that, because I don't know what the legal, if it's not addressed in the lease contract and there's a liability at stake, I mean, I think that'd be something to look into, but I don't think we really qualified to talk about
No.
liability, so I think that's something to look into though, Carter, if you could do that in the consensus
Sure.
of the board.
Hmm.
Look into liability, look into the lease contract, and look into if there is anything we can do.
I understand that, I'm
Yeah.
just saying in general, I mean, if it's not town property, what can we do?
Well, it,
Well, it is
Well,
town
it is
property.
town property.
Let's
It's
remember,
leased by-
one of the
it's
buildings
leased
is
from us by
town
the school.
property.
It's leased, it's.
Leased by the Narragansett
leased-
Regional School District from
From the
Templeton.
town.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's a regional school. Now, if it wasn't a regional school, like Gardner's not leased from Gardner, because there's no
It's-
regional
it's-
school.
right.
district.
Oh,
Gardner- it's
okay, I'm
Gardner owns
sorry,
it.
I completely
Right, I thought
misunderstood
the
that. I
district-
it's
completely
kinda like the new
apologize.
school, it's our school, they're leasing it from us when the new school is done. It's a town school, it's a town building,
For the
but they,
elementary
they,
school.
for the elementary school, but they
Right.
lease it, the school system will release it from us for $1 a year or something.
A what a year?
But the
$1
high
a
school
year.
is theirs.
No,
$1 a year?
the building's, it's a town building, and they lease it from the town.
Even the high school, middle school? I thought that was
Yep.
their building.
Yeah,
No.
that's why
Okay, that's
when there's like a
conversation.
repair
Only the
over
elementary
$50,000,
schools
we have to
were the
pay for
town's
it.
buildings.
No,
Is it 5? Yeah. We have to, because it's technically our building, so.
Right,
Okay.
That's why those district agreements are important, because we need to renew that and make sure
Right.
that
right.
those are covered and liabilities.
especially with
taken care
I
today's
see what
rates.
you're saying now, you're right. I was thinking about it completely differently.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's
Okay, go
what I'm
ahead,
here
sorry.
for, Diane.
I know, Cameron, and you've gotten me all night long.
Okay,
The SRO reimbursement, that's the 32,000. You can see the change if you look at the footnote on, that's prior to fiscal year 19, the school resource officer was carried as a grant and the salary was booked against the grant.
yeah,
The full SRO salary is now carried in the police budget, and we booked the grant to revenues. So that's that change there
Oh,
on the NRSD
Which is-
SRO reimbursement.
that's a good call, in case the grant doesn't come in, we don't wanna be shortchanging ourselves on a budget line item. Okay,
well, wait a minute, the way you just said that, then we shouldn't be using the grant as a revenue stream. In case the grant doesn't come in, that just made me a little bit nervous, John.
I think the school gets the grant, right, and then they reimburse us for that?
Right,
The
but
school pays.
we carry the expense over in the
Then,
expenses.
right, but then, if the way John just said that is if we don't get the grant and we're carrying it over here in income, we shouldn't be carrying it in income then.
If you want us to reduce this to 0,
Well, I mean, what if,
But
I
we
mean,
can do that.
Isn't-
I'm not saying that, it's just the way that he just said that, I'm like, well, that makes me a little nervous.
Right, but the school's paying us the 32, not the grant. The
Yeah.
school gets the grant.
Who's
If the
paying
grant
us the
doesn't-
32?
If the school
Get
doesn't
it
get the
from the
grant,
school, they pay
Okay,
it to
fine.
us.
the school still has to pay us the 32.
School still has to pay us,
And
yes.
Okay.
remember, the revenues
It's just the way you
need to
said
be
that.
conservative enough,
Okay, thank
but they
you.
also have to be flexible. You're not gonna get everything spot on, like the,
That's why I
BART
thought
transportation
a lot of it you
Spot
were
on.
being conservative, but spot on.
It's hard to get it all on this.
I
It's
thought
at
it
11 by
was the line
17, it's a.
Dispatcher Phillips?
Okay, dispatch with Phillipston, we put in the estimate for 62,500.
Was that what the increase got, or is that?
That's basically held at this year's level. In part, remember, they're gonna be helping us out with plowing the other end of Stonebridge Road
Yep.
that we can't get to. And they did come over today, Kevin Flynn, he
Oh,
gave me an
that was nice.
outline of, exhausting to get here, but nice.
We're on TV, Carter.
But he came over well prepared with an outline of where he'd like to head. We're gonna get a draft to him in a couple
good.
of weeks. And I think that this has been, is on the road to being resolved.
Oh, good.
Excellent.
So in respect to all the things that they're doing and getting this thing back on track,
Excellent.
at this point, I'm looking at keeping it the same. We'll look at what Kevin's formula would do, and when the budget comes in as a final to you in February, we'll adjust this based upon that
All right.
formula.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, you're good, yep, thank you.
Mark transportation reimbursement, we put in $115,000 for the, our revenue estimate,
Oh.
and
Well,
So why did Kelly put 60 and you adjusted up to 150?
Carter and I spoke about this because based on the reimbursement we're expecting from the, right here, subject to adjustment based on final appropriation to budget, that's the number that's reflective there.
Well, I see.
We have to budget for the maximum number of rides that we think we're going to give, because we have those drivers and fuel and other expenses. So if we spend the maximum, assume we'll get the maximum.
Mhm.
If we don't spend, we don't get the reimbursement, but we haven't spent. Now, we are
Oh.
underneath what we had for that first year or two when we made this transition. Remember, we went from a revolving fund to doing it inside the budget.
Right.
So what I've asked Diana to do this year is a 5-year history of how many rides have we been giving? How many hours of driving time have we been spending? And I think we can fine tune this 115 down a little bit, so we're a little bit closer, so we don't have quite such a mismatch. But if
Okay.
you apply the 3-year rule that we'd ask Kelly to use, 60,000 would have been the right amount.
Oh, okay, so just, okay. I'm sorry, Adam.
Based on the,
Thank you.
anybody else?
So is it safe to say that, so that number is technically inflated, but I don't wanna use the word inflated, it's, if we don't spend, then we don't get revenue, so it's really, we're not
We're not
spending money
losing.
that we don't have.
That's right.
Right.
What you just have to remember during the course of the year is if there's money left there because you haven't been given the rides, don't go transferring it someplace
You can't.
because you're not getting the revenues.
Yeah, okay,
Right.
I see what you're saying. Well, as long as Adam and you know that, then and Kelly knows that.
And Diana,
Yeah, okay.
Right. So I just thought that was weird. It was like 60 to 115.
I think we can get a better handle on how we estimate what goes into the budget if we do this 5-year analysis of rides and hours of drivers and
Yep.
such. I think we can get closer to the mark.
Moving on to the, all set?
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the meals tax, that's new, we're at 42,000, that's our estimate, which brings our total taxes and local receipts to $13,700,885. And as you can see, most of this, as Mr. Chairman already indicated, we have to wait for House 1, and a lot of it's to be determined from the transfers from sewer to water, but the ambulance receipts we were able to put in at $250,000, allowing to build up a balance and cash source to reduce financing cost of new ambulance. So with that note there.
I see what you're doing.
Remember,
I see what you're doing.
remember you've got about
What?
$50,000
Yep,
in lease payments in this year's budget.
right,
50 times 5 is only $250.
right.
Your new ambulance is gonna cost you probably $300,000
Right.
plus financing costs. So we've gotta hold the amount of ambulance receipts that we tap, so we can try to have some money there to, A, make sure we always have money to support the appropriation at the time of town meeting.
Okay, so you're saying 250, but then you know it's gonna be around 350, so about $100,000 will be unappropriated for, give or
50
take.
plus or minus,
Right,
and then enough of a safety factor.
Yep.
Because remember,
see that?
DOR, when we go into that town meeting, DOR wants to make sure, and we had the first 2 years,
Yeah, that
when
was.
we had to make the transition.
Yep.
DOR is gonna say, did you
Yeah.
have that 250 in the bank at the time of making the appropriation?
Right,
We don't
Right.
wanna have to be having that argument. We
Again.
didn't have it this fall,
right,
Right,
and we don't ever wanna have that argument
not
again.
again.
I got you. But I see,
So
that's good.
that's why we're not applying as much.
I got you. It's just on the back end, it's gonna affect the taxation revenue of the budget for the fire department by about $600,000. Give or take.
It'll apply it a little bit, but I think we'll be okay, because remember, we've gotta go for that ambulance, and I wouldn't be surprised, Doug, if it's 300,000 when they come to you.
Mhm.
Okay. And again, House One will give us the rest?
Yes.
Okay.
And this year, we actually got, $55,000 extra
From House One.
above House One.
Okay.
So it works. In general, it works.
I think that we've been fiscally prudent where we're at the moment. So, and I had called you and I had asked you a couple of questions anyway, and I think going through it line by line just more solidifies it in my head, so thank you, Adam.
So my intent is, again, if there's any questions over any of this over the next
No.
couple of days, let us know. My intent is to send this to the advisory committee, subject to your wishes,
Mhm.
to give them an offer to go in next Thursday night and walk through it, and then to have it on your agenda for the 28th of this month, so you make a final yes, based upon everything that's been presented. And that now gives us your goals, it gives us the budget guidance memo, it gives us that calendar, it gives us the revenue estimate, and that's our package that goes out to everybody.
So I won't be sending you any email, just so that you can, do you have any questions on this, Cameron? Do you have any questions, Doug? Do you have any questions,
Just
John?
what the
Send it.
miscellaneous things were.
Yeah, we'll get you the breakdown.
Yeah, I just want the breakdowns, but I don't have any other
Right, I wouldn't-
questions
yeah, I
on this.
wouldn't
I would
change
say that you should be able to send this to the advisory committee. I don't want you to have to
Do you
be
have the
sitting
House
around
One
waiting
numbers?
for us.
Won't have
Yeah.
them until, and this,
Jeez.
it's the third, it's 3 weeks after the House convenes, so it's the third Monday of January.
Yeah.
Yep,
But-
not till January.
It's an election year,
So then he gets an
so
extra
he gets an extra couple of
weeks, right?
But we suspect it's gonna be in that 1,650,000.
Based upon the current economy,
The economy's
It'll
booming, he
be-
said,
it'll
so.
be the 1,650,000 plus a growth factor on the unrestricted local government aid. So you'll probably be
1,800,000.
30,000 above this year. No,
Still a little less than 1.7.
I want some wishful thinking.
30,000 above this year, maybe.
Nothing big.
He has so far held to his pledge to increase local aid by the growth factor of the state economy.
No, I'm good with it.
Yeah, so don't wait for us. And did anybody have questions on the goals that they were going to send to Adam, or?
Nope.
So you won't be getting any questions from us on
We'll
that
put
either?
that on your agenda for next Wednesday.
Super.
If you could take a look at it, if there's a blank spot, a dead spot, you're not quite sure.
Okay,
If we can get
I'll
that
look at it
question by
again.
next Wednesday morning, we can clean it up for Wednesday night,
okay.
so you can take a final formal vote on it.
I just didn't want you to,
Nope, I
you
just-
know, like
I-
sometimes you say like, well, you didn't hear from anybody at the moment. Those, the only
No, we're good.
questions I had were the ones that I asked because I had reviewed it already.
Okay. The FY '20 countdown?
I'd like to take this one if I could, if you don't mind. So this follows last year's model. We'll have a little bit of final tweaking, you know, is a given day actually that day of the week, those kinds of things. The big thing is about halfway down the page, you're gonna notice all these TBDs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last year, you did your budget workshops on nights, and then there'd be a snow night, or there could be a quorum, and it really telescoped out. And we talked about, were you interested in maybe doing an all-day Saturday? Come in at 8, we'll have coffee for you, donuts for you, bring pizza in, grind it out, and be prepared to be here till 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I did run that by the advisory committee to see what their thoughts are. they like the idea, it's not as simple, but it being, they called it one and done.
I would like a one and
It
done.
will not be one and done.
I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind doing it on a Saturday.
I have
What
no
about you?
problem with that.
I don't
So
either.
the
8
suggestions,
o'clock on a Saturday is pretty early. I just
Pardon?
wanna
I
throw
don't like
that
the
out.
8 o'clock
I think
thing,
8
but
a.m.'s pretty.
Can we do like 9 maybe?
9. Let's do it
9?
9 to 5 sounds
you managed to
great.
take 14 hours each of the last 2 years.
I know,
To
but
do your
8
budget
a.m.,
sessions.
that ain't happening for me.
Okay.
I'll be rolling
So
in
we
here
should
like
do
this.
7 to 7.
I'm-
Be done.
Doug!
7 to 7.
You'll
Let's
see me
go.
at 9.
That sounds good.
So let's for assume a
7 to
moment,
7.
whatever it is.
I would like a Saturday, though.
8:30, 9, whatever it is. So our suggestion is that you're due to get the budget on February 27.
Yep.
Give you 10 days. Read it. Get as many questions as you can to us ahead of time would be terrific. March 9, Saturday, would be the all-day
9.
review with the advisory committee being invited as last year.
Okay.
March 9th.
Reserve Saturday, March 16 as a snow date.
March
Not a second full go-round, but a snow date.
16th, snow day.
Then we would like to have, so now we've got all of our questions. We need to come back to you 2 hours, 3 hours maybe. We'd like to have a joint workshop with you and the advisory committee on March 21st. So
Okay.
whether we have the
That a
meeting
Saturday?
on March 9, no, it's a
That's
Thursday night.
Thursday.
So whether we have a meeting with you on
Thursday?
March 9 or March
Okay,
16,
well, then.
we have anywheres from 5 to 12 days to be prepared to answer your questions and meet with you. And for that workshop, we'd like to set a snow date, joint with this advisory committee of Monday, March 25. And again, that would be that 2 or 3 hour meeting just to, you had all these questions during the Saturday.
Okay.
Here's the answers, and that would allow you to still adopt the budget and warrant on March 27th. It does mean a certain amount of
Okay.
speed and concentration on
Oh, I don't know if I can
getting
have
through the
that.
process.
Just kidding. Okay.
So if you like that idea, that schedule, we'll get those dates off to the advisory committee, so they can lock those in. And we've done the courtesy of making one of the night meetings their regular meeting. Well, we think we're doing that courtesy, so they don't have to have a extra meeting.
So, let me see, BOS, OT. So some of these, so the, like, March 4, March 6, March 11, March 18th, like, none of, is this gonna be, this would be revised?
This would all be revised,
Oh,
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yep.
No, I think it's good.
I like the Saturday thing.
Yep.
Because we did talk about that.
So what kind of donuts you gonna get for that Saturday meeting?
Well,
I think it's glazed.
if I'm, if
Couple
I'm
dozen.
doing the collective,
We'll put it in
it's
order.
gonna have a
Tim
good,
Hortons.
it's gonna.
I want Tim Horton donuts.
Oh, no. Sorry, Doug, you have to come back to Toronto with me. I got so lucky on that trip. And so unless there's any changes, we're gonna get the, invite out to all the committees, tomorrow
All good with me?
for the 26th.
I don't know if it's
Convention of
good
the
with
committees.
John, but I'm assuming it would be.
And we'll need to make this, slightly structured presentation. Do you wanna give them the goals? How do you wanna, is there anything in particular you wanna?
We'll just force that all on John. John can come up with that, right?
What's that?
Yep.
Everything that you
Convention of
just
the
said.
committees, that's all you.
Just say yeah.
I have no problem with that.
There you go.
Okay. We got convention of the committees, talk of the town.
Yep.
State of the town for
Yep.
January.
Yep.
For you.
Yep.
You
I'll
have
talk to
no
you
idea
after.
what you just-
Yeah, I'm sure, you know, I'm in trouble like usual.
All right, so
Throw me under the bus.
we just did,
I know, I heard the bus backing up. Exactly. Thanks, Carter. for
actually, we
protecting
didn't do the beeps, we just ran you over.
me. There was no
No,
beeping.
no safety
There was no
measures on that.
safety. No cones.
Cameron said, don't do the beeping, shh.
Yeah.
And we'll get the, Senator Goby was reelected,
Yes.
Representative Whips was reelected, so we'll
Yes.
get the invite out to them to hopefully attend that business meeting in early January,
Okay,
as we've been doing.
Yep.
Do we send out a, like a congratulational thing from the town on their
It'll
reelections?
be congratulations, please show up bearing gifts.
Exactly. Something like,
Yeah,
something
like mine.
along those
He
lines.
hasn't written them yet, I don't know.
You haven't written those yet?
He's
tomorrow,
getting me on
please.
it. He already told me.
I'm sure he did.
I already told him to get a cot for January, February.
I live down this street. I have a couch.
I already said I have a basement with pellets, Joe.
Oh, see, they're all, see, all
I
set.
said any snowstorm,
They're all set.
don't be driving
I'm
home in that, that
And
would
she'll
be
make you dinner.
terrible.
She'll make you dinner too.
Who said
It's on
that?
moose though.
You're
I'm
making
just
dinner?
throwing people under the bus.
I'm like, who said I would make dinner? John just volunteered me to make dinner. Who said I even
Well,
cook?
now I have to do all these speeches, so I figured.
I would never want to see him drive home in that.
No, don't drive home. Not to chicken,
That
but
would
you're out of
be
your mind.
awful.
Carter told me all the deals of hotels around here.
He what?
Oh, you
Well,
don't,
Mark
definitely
Shea,
don't
too.
need a hotel around here.
You don't need a
Somebody-
hotel around
Yeah,
here,
you don't
brother.
need a hotel, ever.
That's wasting your
shouldn't
dog.
be driving
Carter
home
needs a
in that.
hotel room.
Okay,
What are we on now?
2E, right? Are we on 2E?
Proposed amendments, are we good? Proposed amendments to the
So,
personnel policy,
um,
time change?
We had the first use of the new evaluation form this year. We gave
Yes.
you a memo in which we circulated to the department heads' comments and concerns. And they had a couple which are pretty easy to accommodate. And the thought here is, first, is we would like to move section 3A procedures.
Mm-hmm.
Performance reviews may, first off, will be conducted on an annual cycle based on the employee's hire date. Frankly, we don't have the infrastructure to do that. So what we'd like to do is to have 2 cycles. The first cycle would be done in mid-May after town meeting to early June on union employees, as we move to our position being that step increases are not just passage of time, but they have to be accompanied by a positive performance evaluation. So if we can do those evaluations, either for the department heads if they're under contract, or union people in that, mid-May to early June, we can have everything ready for July 1, because I'm trying to keep the time between when you have the performance review and when they get the check as tight as possible.
Right.
If they get elongated, they forget what you said, and they don't necessarily connect the two. The second cycle would stay pretty much as it was, move forward a little bit more, because the department heads would like 3 weeks to complete the evaluation process. Because it's not just them doing their people, it's them doing their people, then coming in and sitting down and reviewing it with me, because I take those reviews into account as I do their review.
So we're gonna push this back into September, obviously.
So we'll push it back a little bit earlier, probably, late August, maybe even mid-August,
Okay.
so that we're done by the first week of September, so we can be to you at the first business meeting of September for the budget transfers. This year, we were way too close. What were we, like 3 days between the board made it just wasn't enough time.
It was 3 days.
Yeah,
We
it
met on a
just,
Wednesday, went on a Monday.
it just wasn't enough time, even though technically it doesn't land in the payrolls. They didn't have to, payroll had another week yet
Right.
to make the changes. It just was
Okay.
too close. So we would do that in two groups is our thought for the moment. Then, this idea that the human resources assistants will send a reminder to the department head, yep, we'll do that, here's your form. Go do your union people, here's your form, do your non-union.
I got you.
people. So we'd like to make a few tweaks to this. The major tweak is this idea that we're going to do them once a year at the same time in these batches, as opposed to trying to hit everybody's
On the anniversary. Yeah,
anniversary.
you can't
date.
do that.
We just don't have the infrastructure to do
Right.
it.
Oh, I understood.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that. Ken,
So,
Yeah,
you agree with
I
that?
agree with that. Yeah.
so
Yep.
what, if anything, does the policy have to curb the situation of just giving, good reviews, so everybody gets the raise? I mean,
Carter's review of
just
that department
because,
head, right?
a department head doesn't wanna deal with a personnel issue, or for whatever reason, that's how we ended up with the situation where we had a number of less performing, employees, but they were continually getting raises and, yep, they're doing fine, you're doing fine. So,
Well, first, they weren't getting reviews.
right. Mhm.
Secondly, perhaps whoever was in my seat had a backbone that bent a little bit easier.
Mhm.
Mine doesn't necessarily bend all that easily. Really? The department heads know that how well they manage their staff and do their reviews is taken into consideration in doing their review.
Yeah, right.
The other thing is, I think people, the department heads understand that if they have a staff member that isn't working out well, they have somebody that's gonna stand behind them. They're a little bit more willing to do that discipline, to put someone on a performance consultation. And you saw last year, we had, I don't recall if it was 2 or 3, that did not get any raise at all.
3.
And this year, we had 2 folks that did not get any raise at all. And you've seen that people who simply don't show an interest in improving their performance are separated from the service of the town.
And don't be disillusioned too, Doug. I mean, if the director's having a personnel issue, who's the first person that director's gonna talk to?
Carter.
That's right. So he's already gonna know what's going on already. So when he's doing the review for the directorate, he's gonna key in the fact, well, you had an issue with so-and-so employee 5 months ago.
Why are you giving them?
Why
a
is, did that employee just have a moment and
Mhm.
now they're doing well? I mean, so he's gonna know, or she's gonna know, whoever's in that seat.
So,
yeah.
so you really have to hope for the best, because there is no way that anyone can guarantee you that that's not gonna happen.
Mhm.
It's just something you have to monitor and feel comfortable with.
I find solace in the fact that I think that's part of a department head's duty is to review their employees and to manage their employees. So I think if we do find some of those instances, I think it highlights their ability to be a department head by not making those tough choices. So we hope that doesn't happen. If it does, that will come out.
And I've had to say to 1 or 2 department heads, I gotta tell you, I understand it's not easy taking people on, but it took you a little while before you did this, and we have some people who are on a performance plan, and the department heads now meet with them monthly, and we have a memo for you that you'll see in your read folder that, one of those folks, they left.
Mhm.
I can't guarantee you anything, Doug, it's just,
Okay.
it's something that takes constant monitoring, and the board needs to feel comfortable that the administrator is holding the department heads responsible for that.
Yeah.
So then we'll come up with some changes
Yeah, that looks good,
to
yeah.
bring you back
Yep, absolutely.
a little bit.
putting together joint, excuse me, the joint loss management
So I'm
committee?
gonna run this one by you,
Sure.
hopefully fairly quickly. Bottom line is Massachusetts has adopted a law effective February 1, 2019. There's really no materials
Okay,
on this at this point, in which OSHA now applies across
who's Asha?
municipalities. Oshkosh, bagosh.
What dialect is that?
What, are you going to a translator app?
What is that? OSHA, okay.
OSHA. And we've got some training for the department heads. When did you set that up for? The 15th?
And this is for the,
For OSHA applying to us. But even before this, my thought is that we would consider having a small group of employees, someone from the fire department, someone from the police department, basically the physical locations. And when there is an accident or an incident or a workers' comp injury, we would ask them to review that to the extent we can share the information under privacy
Right.
regulations. And see what the employees think of it, see what we can learn, see what improvements we could make, and ask them to also put together, at least once a year, 3-4 hours, a training, whether that training is on, how to lift, how to bend, how to deal with things, how to use different kinds of safety equipment, how to use fire extinguishers, which fire extinguisher to grab for when you're headed for the computer room. And I mean, it sounds a little bit silly, but the fire department comes up and they set up a half a barrel and they start a fire, and someone from the highway or Holly or grabs an extinguisher and uses it so you can see how to do it.
great idea. But this isn't like an accident investigation type of team.
Well, and the workers' comp, it's not a detailed, but if it's, we're getting these kinds of injuries, and it's because if we had this piece of equipment, we could do this, or if we had this kind of practice, we could do this, or we're noticing we're getting a couple of different kinds of injuries of the same type. Maybe we should have a training of this type.
I see what you're saying.
So it takes some time on the employees, it takes them off the payroll, but anything that can help, I think, improve their sense of safety, improve training, improve their sense of team, I think may have some payoffs, both in terms of morale and over time, hopefully premiums.
We don't currently keep a log of any work-related injuries.
We don't even get notified of all of them at times.
Oh, okay, well, that's liability waiting to happen.
You have to be careful about that too because of HIPAA stuff and,
Yeah, but if you
Well,
have
the
a
treatment for the accident is a
well,
HIPAA,
I'm
that's
just
over
saying,
there.
like, if you keeping.
Well, somebody slipped and fell on some ice that was outside the fire department. I mean, they said they bruised their knee. That's something that needs to get reported, that it wasn't salted
Right.
properly and that he
Sometimes
has a
we
knee
don't.
injury, so that it's documented. He said that he was all right at that time, and,
You
that
tell me that,
conversation
you
was
know,
taken.
you tell me there's 3 injuries, slip and falls, at the XYZ building, the committee would be like, well, how come we have vinyl composition tile there instead of X? Maybe we should do this.
Right.
I've found that they do build a sense of team. They also build a sense of dread for those employees who, I'm not going to that training today.
I would say it's probably 95% of them. When I used to work manufacturing, they were dreaded, so.
But
Well,
with,
then we could put up a sign that says 0 days with no accidents. 1 day with no accidents, 2 days with no, I'm just saying.
but with these new OSHA regulations coming in, this might be a
Right.
good a time to give this some further consideration.
Absolutely.
If you think this is of some interest to you. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on it if the idea is dead on arrival.
I think it's a good idea, and I think it's a good idea to build team, and I think it's a good idea to keep up with the regulations, and I think it's a good idea to make sure that, and when I was working with Alicia, when we were working on the personnel manual, she got something in, because we are allowed to look in the files and stuff. And I was helping her put them together, and something came in, oh, so-and-so was injured like 3 weeks ago. I said, did you just find out about this now? She's like, yeah. And I go, so you don't get told. They don't get told.
Hmm.
So I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, because if employees are gonna get hurt, which, I mean, it's gonna happen, I mean, but obviously if they do the right things, and we're following up with them, doing the right things, and making sure they're doing the right things, making sure the directors and the managers and the supervisors are making sure they do the right things, and, yeah, I think it's a good
I
opportunity.
think it's that they don't, do you know how to use a fire extinguisher, Holly?
Mhm.
But I think,
Only because I had training when I was a bus driver.
okay, but if, I can say that I've only had training once and I don't remember how.
I've never had training, but I think I could use one. So-
See what I
Well,
mean?
But
There's
wait,
pictures
put
on
me
it.
to the test.
But there's
so.
pictures on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. Pull the pin and spray the base of the
Yeah,
fire,
it's not that
but
simple.
I've never had to use it.
But there's certain kinds of fires that you have to use a certain kind of extinguisher.
Yeah,
So-
grease fires and then like
Right,
electrical fires.
But I'm just
yeah.
saying, like, I think it's a good idea.
Chemical
You think it's a
fire.
good idea?
And-
Do you think it's a good
And
idea?
people need to know where the extinguishers are.
Yep.
But right,
And it really isn't quite as simple as there's an
That's just an
extinguisher, you
example.
grab it. Just having them do it can provide them with a little bit of confidence that in the real world, they really could do it if they had to.
Sounds good to me.
I think from the safety and employee aspect aside, I think it comes down to a pure liability standpoint for the town. I mean, if you look at any other companies out there, any other organization, when this is really a big benefit to the organization and the employee, because I think on the organizational side, you know, you have to figure out how to mitigate as much potential loss as you could, and this is that. If we're training our employees to work safely and not hurt themselves or to avoid danger and to be safe in the workplace, it also comes back and reflects on us in a liability standpoint. So I think there is value add on both sides, even if it, you know, takes them off the payroll. It's still a better benefit to have that to mitigate the potential risk for loss, so.
It's like when they were teaching CPR here, the town came in and taught the employees to do CPR. I thought that was another great additive that the fire department provided to the employees
that's definitely.
at no cost. I thought that was fantastic. And I think that's something that also should continue if feasible. Which is, again, it just enhances our ability through OSHA that we meet all these different other requirements.
If you're gonna have AEDs in buildings, you need people who are trained on.
That's
these.
right,
Right.
exactly. Even though there's pictures on that too, but you don't wanna put the pads different ways, you know.
Move ahead.
So we'll move forward
Sounds
on
good.
bringing something back on that after we get this initial training on next Thursday and get a better sense of how this law is gonna evolve.
Okay.
On the overtime call-in and out-of-class pay,
Yes.
we have first off, I wanted to let you know, this came up, we had a deputy whose job is to fill in for pay for temporary assignments. This is item E. We had a deputy who's had to fill in for their department head. And in some of our union contracts, you get paid an extra $1. In this case, it's item G.
Oh, gee,
Look at paragraph E.
sorry, wait. Okay, got it.
And what it says is, when an employee is temporarily assigned to a position with a higher rate of pay for 40 or more consecutive work hours. So you have a deputy, they're filling in for the department head, non-union. Technically, we're supposed, under this, we're supposed to pay them the department head's pay rate. So I'd like to move to the union, basically the union standard, which is that extra $1, 8%, that several of the union agreements are a little bit differently. This cost us a substantial amount of money, and frankly was a little bit irksome, because they're the deputy, that's their job, is to fill in the department head when the department head isn't here. To then pay them the salary of the department head, just,
This is for non-union, right?
this is for non-union.
Because the
right?
union, it's in the contract.
Yes, and they have, depending upon which union, they have varying rates 8%
Mhm.
of above your own pay or $1 an hour.
Right.
I'd probably look at the,
I was
And
gonna
is
say
that based
percentage,
on 40
but
hours also? They have to work 40 hours before they get that increase?
Temporarily assigned.
in some of those contracts, it happens
Temporarily.
immediately.
Keyword, temporarily,
That's right.
not interim, temporarily.
They are temporarily acting in the place.
what was
Oh,
it?
So if the
the
department
Is that
head's
temporary?
gone for, you know,
I'm sorry,
week's
I'm just
vacation.
irked right now, I'm really
Right.
irked right
And-
now,
And
sorry.
they're signing bond issues, let's say.
So this is temp,
Yeah, I got it.
but I do agree with the 40, because like if they're out for one day, and this person's covering them for the one day, they shouldn't get any
No,
extra.
but it is the 40.
Cameron's laughing at me, I know.
he's laughing at me.
I'm
We ended
laughing
up
at
paying
John
the full
because he's a
amount.
jerk.
Listen, we're on TV. What's,
It's an informal workshop here, John.
it is an,
You're wearing a tie at the table, so.
I am. So is he. He won't look like me.
Go get the scissors on it.
Okay, so are we moving ahead with the dollar?
Yes.
Well, with
Yes.
some fix, I just wanna make sure people are
Yes,
agreeable with
yes,
Yep,
fix it.
Okay.
Doug,
Yes.
yes,
Sick leave.
okay,
Mhm.
I just wanted to know.
The call-in, so,
What is this?
right now, we have no
Speech.
minimum call-in for our
I
non-union.
don't know what that other paper was, and I don't know
Oh,
why
that's
we
the
When you
got
say
it.
flags.
minimum
Flags.
call-in, that's
No, not
time
that
before
one.
you
The
can
flags
call out of work.
No, that's the flagpole. I mean,
So.
Well, that wasn't even on the agenda.
I'll get there.
it's coming up.
There's a connection.
Okay.
So, we have no minimum call-in. So when you call somebody because it's Saturday morning and you're hearing a sound at town hall, technically, are supposed to pay them for whatever it takes them to get here, look at the issue and go home. Half an hour, whatever the minimum call-out is. Whereas on our union contracts, there's a minimum. When we call you out, we'll pay you for
3 hours.
3 hours, 4 hours, whatever that particular
Right.
union contract is. When you combine that with the fact that we follow for our non-union people strict FLSA application, and for our union people, we have a provision of, we'll only pay after 40 hours worked. Oh, we'll count your holiday, your vacation, your sick time, and your personal time as worked. So I have a situation with some of our folks, in which, they have a holiday on, Monday, let's say, and then they have to come in, for a burial on, Saturday, or they have to come in and lower flags on Saturday, which is happening more and more frequently. So I have some folks that are feeling like they're not being treated equally and fairly. So I want you to think about that, so we
So
can talk
you're
about it.
making the recommendation so that if somebody get called in on a Saturday, that we give them 4 hours of pay if they worked
Well, I'm
30
not
minutes?
necessarily saying four.
But, but that's essentially what you're saying, is there's a minimum amount of time
I
that you would get
think
paid
if we
for.
disrupt somebody's life, they should be compensated adequately for it, reasonably for it.
Typically, most on-call things are 3 hours. Once you get called in, you usually get 3 hours worth of pay. And some of those people that get called in can be there for 15 minutes, but they're still getting 3 hours of pay.
That's
So
true.
for instance,
That's true,
That's a true statement.
especially on a Saturday,
Mhm.
when they could be with their family.
here is, we're getting more and more of these, I've noticed this
From the governor.
over the
Yep.
And
years.
they have to, and this takes
Even.
more than 15 minutes, I get it. 1, 2,
We
3,
have
4, 5,
a
6, 7,
set of
8, 9,
flags
10, 11, 12,
that-
13 places.
were to be lowered to half staff from sunrise until sunset, October 27, 2018, a Saturday.
How many times did they have to do that this year?
About a half a dozen times
Yeah, I
so
was
far.
gonna say, 13 places they have to go to.
It's not about stay, it's typically
so-
one individual.
It's one individual who has to do that.
Yeah.
If it's-
13 places.
if it's
so
a
whenever.
Probably takes
weekday.
them an hour, you know.
and they're gonna be at work the next morning at 6 AM, they kind of, cheat,
Yeah,
do it the next morning.
which they can do. They
But
can do that.
if it's a Saturday
They
or
can't
a
cheat.
Friday,
We'll get phone calls.
you can't cheat a couple days.
No, we'll get phone calls.
So I need to ask you to think
Out of
about
respect, they wouldn't
this.
cheat.
Not cheat like,
I understand.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you put it down at the appropriate time.
Right.
Later going back up.
we just gave more of a
And, you know,
salute.
if it's supposed to go back up at 8 o'clock at night, cause it's summer, and it doesn't go back up till 6 o'clock the next morning, 6:30,
Mhm.
that's generally not a problem.
Mm.
But if it's supposed to go down at sunset on a Friday, in the dead of winter, which is gonna be 4:30, the guys have left at 3,
Mhm.
and we leave it down till Monday morning, and Monday's a holiday, it's becoming a problem.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I need to ask you to think about some adjustments that you would be open to treat our non-union people fairly in this manner. And it's always.
Is this the only department that would be affected by that? Or is there any
Well,
other?
if you make the change, then what are you gonna say, you know, so, it's only guys in buildings and grounds, it's here, it's there.
No, so
We
it'll be
need to work it out.
townwide.
Yeah, I'm just generally wondering, right now, if we were to pass this, say, right now, I mean, what's gonna be affected, without anybody adding anything else?
Parks, what buildings and grounds?
Highway.
No,
Hi-
highway.
Oh, no, they have a union, sorry. I'm
it'll
wrong.
be
Really?
building-
Our clerks that come back in for night meetings, we'd have to make it clear that, you know, a split schedule does not qualify for callback.
Mhm.
We'd have to figure out how to finesse it so it doesn't cost us quite a
But
bit.
the overall intent is to get those people that are just getting out of bed at 6 in the morning to do 15 minutes worth of work here and there, and
Or
Well,
an hour and a
not
half, or whatever it
15.
is, yes.
Yeah.
That's is almost, could I please know how long it takes for one person
To
to
do the
do all
routes?
these? Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, looking at about an hour and 45 minutes easy.
And the union
Because I did it
contracts that we
myself.
have,
To disrupt someone's life, I'd like 3 hours.
Well, because I did it myself. When Alan was on vacation, we had issues, especially on Saturdays. I was the one that went around Saturday morning and loaded all
What was
the
your
trucks.
compensation for
I
that?
was, yeah, I got compensated. I get paid here as a being a
I
selectman.
got like
Really?
Yep.
10% of what he
Nice.
makes normally.
That's right. That's right, zero.
10% of nothing to nothing, right?
That's right, zero.
So of the union contracts we have, what are
Is
the
it 3 or
rules
4?
in those? You know, is it 4 hours, 3 hours?
I'd have to go back
Right,
and
I mean,
look, but
I'd
I'm
be
thinking
interested to know what that
it's
is.
I
4.
think it's 4.
I don't-
Most of the ones I'm used to are, 3.
Three.
I'd like to
Four's
see
a
the
half
minimum
day's
be
pay
3.
to do it. I mean, that was-
Remember, this is at overtime,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
I think the folks I'm talking to who have brought this issue to me would be very happy at 3.
3. I'd like to see it be 3.
If you could quantify, since you said a half dozen times, and we're looking at 3 hours plus whatever that overtime rate is, I mean, we're looking at less than the $3,000 annually, right?
If you're open to this, we'll put together an approach to it and try to give you a sense of what we think this would do
That's about right.
I'm open.
to.
I think if you feel comfortable with
the
taking the
overtime.
budget hit on that to compensate and to make sure that these employees feel compensated appropriately, I would be for
I
that.
think we need to treat our non-union personnel fairly,
I'm open.
especially when they view it
Before
from the
they
lens of what
unionize?
we're. Yes. But, yeah. Okay, so we'll come back to you with something on that.
Great.
Sick leave accrual and usage. Now I'm going in a different direction. You allocate sick leave 13 days a year. You give them 2 days in July. Everything else is 1 day a month. It is a flippin'
It's a
nightmare
nightmare.
for the accruals.
Why can't we just do all like 1 July,
Paid time off,
PTO?
PTO.
Well, in the short term, I'd like to go to 12 days.
Say 1 July, you get 12 days?
credited
Well,
on July
You get a
1st.
day a month.
Well, why can't we just do like the,
A day a month.
what, again, but if you look at the union contracts, they all get a one lump sum at the beginning of their beginning of their year.
Cause you can take all that and then resign
Cor-
before you.
correct.
Right, or, I mean, you get it on July 1 and
Well,
you
actually,
quit on August 3rd, you know?
Yeah, you gotta,
Now you've got
not
those 12
prorate.
well,
days.
actually, if you had to be a year, then you got 12 days, then you have to be here a year to get 12 days. We can set it up so that every payroll period, they're getting so many hours, it really is much easier to accrue.
Mhm.
But it all starts with, going from 13 days to 12. That starts the process, making the accruals easier to do.
So you wanna remove one paid day off.
I do, I told you, on this one, I'm going in the other direction.
And we talked about PTO.
I wouldn't be
remember?
for that. And unfortunately, I think once you offer something like that and you retract it, I think I wouldn't be comfortable doing that to the employees. That's my standpoint, cause I would be absolutely livid if
Okay.
somebody took away one of my PTO days. So,
But they're not PTOs, they're sick.
it's just, that's just my feeling is, once you have something, you're gonna have to fight me to take it back, and I think that would be a demoralizing blow. So that's just my thoughts on the subject.
What if we do it with the new incoming employees?
You could do something like that moving forward, but I think that might,
But you
Make
can't
his-
do it with the people who have been here, who have been allotted that time. How do you take something away from somebody who already
I
has
change the
it?
overtime rules and do them at the same time.
What do you mean changing overtime rules and doing it at the same time?
Do both at the same time.
Changing overtime rules?
We change rules all the time. You've changed health insurance, we've changed hours.
Change
You
days.
have fought back the idea that once you give somebody something, you can never change it. That's a battle you've been fighting with the
Well,
reduction of fringe benefit costs.
well,
it's one of those things, if you're taking away one sick day that you're compensated for, it's technically out of your whole package. So when you look at a company that you're going to, you take into account the healthcare benefits, you take in the 401k programs, how much
Well,
PTO you're getting, and you can quantify that into a numeric value. Say, if I'm getting paid 12 sick days with a salary of X, then you can add those sick days as whatever, free days. But if
So
you're removing it,
let me move through because there's an improvement I wanna make.
Okay.
in the plan. And this is all driven by, it is a pain in the tuchus
Mhm.
to have the accruals computerized when you have these kinds of,
it is a pain in the ass.
here I do this, then I do this, then I do that.
Mhm.
So I'd like to draw your attention to about halfway down the page, the first 40 hours of sick leave of each year may be used for the following purpose. And I'd like to draw your attention to the second bullet. To attend the employee's routine medical appointments or routine medical appointments for the employee's child, spouse, parent, or parent of the spouse.
Mhm.
So in the first 40 hours of the year, I can use it to take care of my child, stepchild, parent, and the like. Now, let's say I have the flu, it's January or February. I have the flu and I'm out for 5 days. And in March, Granny slips a disc and I need to take her to the doctors. I can't do it. Because after the first 40 hours have been used, you'll notice that bullet is gone.
Right.
So what I'd like to do is just to make it, here's your sick time. You can use up to a total of 40 hours over the course of the year for these purposes. And if you've got the flu in January, February, March, no problem. You can use those 40 hours to care for your dependents anytime during the course of the year. Because I'm not interested in being the police of the first 40 hours.
Yeah, I don't even like being
Yeah, I don't even like
police
the
at
40-hour
all.
thing, yeah,
You can use your, that's why I want just
For-
paid time off.
all of these bullet points.
I think they're ridiculous.
So I think that's an improvement I'd like to be able to provide the employee.
Well,
Yeah.
if we can go back to your complexities with the the sick time. So 52 is divisible by 13, so you can do that on an accrual basis. Every 4 weeks, they get 1 day. So if you just accrued a quarter of a day or 2 hours every week, you would take care of that problem. You wouldn't have to load anything. That way you can just front it, and you wouldn't have to take away a day, and you wouldn't have to worry about 2 days in July.
I'm happy to talk with Kelly about that.
Yeah.
We need to solve this, we need to improve this accrual problem.
I think that's because that works out perfectly.
The
2
ultimate
hours a week.
solution is Doug's.
Yeah, just combine
the
everything.
PTO.
That'd be the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, I would love that.
I would be all in
We
favor of
talked
that.
about
That's
that in
how
the Bob-
everybody
Yeah,
does it
everyone
now.
else does it.
Everybody just slams it, because I think it's an absurd thought that I have to call up my boss and say, oh, I have a funeral to go to, or, oh, I'm sick today. Instead, hey, I'm not in today, take it off my vacation time or PTO.
All you do is, one
Right.
PTO day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just load it all in, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing.
We're not gonna get there quickly.
I know that. I'm just saying,
But in the
I'm sick.
meantime, I would like to,
We're adults.
address this accrual
No, you
problem.
keep it right now.
Oh,
And I'd like to
Stuff.
improve, the way, this restriction on their ability, during this first 40 hours.
Yeah, I would get rid of the 40-hour thing altogether. I mean, you got 12 days, you can
Yeah.
use it for any of these things that you
right.
need to use
Call
it.
it a day.
I mean, as long as it's medical related, whether it's you or your dependents or,
Spouse or parents.
and that's the
Or
way you wanna
parents.
use it, so be it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Mhm. Who are we to judge?
Yeah.
We're not. We
Exactly.
shouldn't.
No, absolutely. These are our employees. Why would we?
So I'd just get rid of the whole 40-hour thing altogether.
One of the things that we, don't lay out here, and we probably should, is the blocks in which it needs to be used.
The what?
Blocks,
Blocks?
Mm.
used in 2-hour blocks or 4-hour blocks.
Well, it wasn't there, but,
Wasn't it in there?
lawyer took it out.
Yeah, that's right. I remember reading it.
It's a real nuisance if an employee wants to tell you they took 15 minutes, or they took a half an hour, they took.
Oh, that would be absurd. I'm
Yeah.
taking 15 minutes as sick
That's
time.
what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, is
But you should be
2
allowed
hours
to do that.
reasonable even? Is that
Right.
too, I mean.
So maybe it
but
has
again,
to
we
be in
got
an
people
hour,
that don't work
maybe
8
it has
hours
to
a
be in
day.
an hour block, but it needs to be in some even blocks that are,
Two.
Right, 1, 2, 3.
Manageable.
I
4.
only had to take my mother to a doctor's appointment just down the street, and I was gone for 2 hours. Why do I wanna waste a whole day?
Right.
Why do I wanna take 7 hours?
most
Because
of the
I took my
employees are
mom
really
to the
very
doctor.
good. They, make their appointments early in the morning. They
Right, and
make
they
them
come
towards
to
the end
work
of the
after.
day. They're generally pretty good. But if you're agreeable to some tweaks on this,
Absolutely.
I think I'd like to move forward.
I'm agreeable.
I am. Cam, you up?
The last on this is to
Yeah.
have the
I just don't agree with taking away time.
$10 a day, just have the days rounded. This also is a nuisance. It comes out to, a 3 decimal point fraction at
Sure.
times. I'll skip the use of retained earnings ones, given the hours. I'll just bring you something direct. That's the idea. You may recall, we had some retained earnings certified. We asked one of the enterprise funds to make a contribution towards their capital and OPEB, and we were told they weren't interested in doing that. And we need to make progress, our credit rating and our actuarials. We're going with our credit rating probably the next 6 weeks or so. So all of these things are small incremental improvements. So I'll bring you something.
So the enterprise fund wasn't doing it?
They weren't interested in doing it, so we need to
Sure.
change the financial management policy to make it clearer cut of our expectation that retained earnings will be contributed towards
They told us
capital
no.
reserves and OPEBs as well.
Well, they have to, because we can't maintain
No,
theirs.
they told us no.
Well,
Is Lightwater doing theirs? How's John doing over there?
they're doing
They
very
do it.
well, and they're adding monies to their operating budget. I can't remember. I gave him a number, I asked him to start contributing, and he actually went a little bit above that. So that's in their operating budget, and they're doing,
All right, so there's
they're
one that
doing well
didn't do
with
that. Okay, all right.
well, we'll see. We've gave the other enterprise fund a target for fiscal 2020 to start putting an actual number into their budget to make a contribution in addition to what could be contributed out of retained earnings. Because at this point, we're at a position where all we can do is contribute our free
So you're
cash.
just gonna come back to us with something?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so the closer light and water gets, the closer sewer gets, it helps lift us up, even though we can only move incrementally out of free cash.
Right.
But we've been doing it. Okay, I'm speaking no more.
We have.
Right, okay.
And finally, we did ask Adam to attend the Regional School District Finance meeting of the 29th, and I would like to ask him to brief you on what he learned.
Yes, everybody, I have a copy of the update for you.
Great.
And, just to keep you informed on what happened at the meeting. Thank you. The topics of discussion at the Narragansett Regional School District Finance meeting of the school committee on Monday, October 29th, 2018 at 5 PM in the central office start with the meeting being called to order by Chair Margaret Hughes. Shortly thereafter, the meeting minutes of October 15th, 2018 were approved. The Finance Committee moved to ongoing business with the discussion of the fiscal year 20 budget proposals. Most of the discussion centered around fiscal year 2018 as the district budgeted for revenue of $150,000, however, brought in $355,000 in Medicaid reimbursement. The superintendent explained how regional school districts can retain and use these Medicaid reimbursements. He was looking at using this money for a custodian in the DCTC Templeton Center, cafe person, behavior specialist, and a Medicaid coordinator. He believes a Medicaid coordinator will help bring more to increase the Medicaid line, with that individual solely focused on performing those duties necessary to managing the Medicaid reimbursement. Another discussion regarding Templeton, and as we mentioned earlier in our revenue estimates, there was a discussion about the snow removal that also took place. That's how we got word here at Town Hall about the how superintendent spoken with the town administrator Carter Terenzini about the NRSD plans on taking care of plowing of their parking lot and the clearing of their sidewalks at the middle and high school for fiscal year 20. The next meeting is scheduled for November 14th, 2018 at 5 PM. Finally, the meeting was adjourned at approximately 6:10 PM, give or take.
Are you planning on attending these meetings, Adam?
Yes, I will be attending.
And to take notes and bring them back to us?
Yes, brief the select board.
And did they have any discussion about the override that they plan on doing at all? They have any discussion on that at all?
There may have been mentioned briefly, but I don't quote me on that. Most of the discussion was centered around these positions with the Medicaid line. That's where most of it was centered on, but I will brief the committee more
As the discussions continue?
yes.
Thank
It's something that's brought up infrequently, and every time it's brought up, it's not really discussed. So, with the meetings I've attended, I watched that they know it's there, they know it's the giant elephant in the room that no one really wants to talk about,
Well,
so.
I know that you weren't able to attend the joint meeting, and I'll brief you a little bit. They wanted us to talk about it first, and they weren't willing to bring it up. And in the discussions that we had last year, we told them that if they wanted or needed funds, that they were getting zero from us, and that they had to do the whole thing as an override. And I remember that distinctly. So Margaret, Chairman Hughes, brought it up. And she said, okay, the elephant is the room, is that we will need an override. It will be significant. I believe that was the word that she used, but she did not state a dollar amount, because they don't have that number right now. They won't have it until they have House 1 and Chapter 70 money and all of that. I mean, that's reasonable to assume. So at this point, I did state, I asked the question that, it went around the room. I mean, different people asked questions, and unfortunately, I asked Dr. Cassavant. It was asked last year by, Selectwoman Richards, that she wanted to know where people were going when they went out of district. And they don't always know that. And he stated that a survey had been sent out. So I surveyed a lot of I know a lot of people who've gone out of district to Quabbin and to Ash West and to Monty Tech doesn't count, and they never got a survey. So I asked Dr. Cassavant, I said, a survey never was not that of appearance that I surveyed. Well, we didn't really do one. So, but we can do one. Until I know, me personally, I won't speak for the rest of you, until I know where $618,000 is going out our doors, I cannot support an override. I can't.
Okay.
So that's my thought on that matter, because I want to know, and that's people from here in town. These aren't, I love the fact that people want to come here. Of course you want to come here. We're getting a new school. We are a great high school, middle school to attend. But we wouldn't need $618,000. We wouldn't need $1 million. We would only need $300,000. I want to know where all that money is come. So he said he would send out a survey. I have surveyed some parents. Maybe they haven't had time to do it. I know they have a lot going
What
on.
was the primary reason of when you were surveying some of those parents, what were some of their rationale? 'Cause I know sometimes it's their parents work at a different school, I know sometimes they just don't get along with the kids at a school. Did you,
There was
just a slew
a
of different?
common theme is not following IEPs and 504s.
Really?
Another common theme is bullying.
Really, okay.
They're not being addressed. Another common theme is parents feel that they cater to the AP and honor students
Top
and not
10%.
to, children
All
like
levels.
the children who are not mainstream.
Like myself when I was in school, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I had some of those, the middle school, they feel like they just have to survive, and that's what I heard. And I wish that culture would change. I mean, and those are things that I heard. Whether or not those are accurate, I won't speak to that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, but those things need to be addressed. And they need to be heard. And I used to be the liaison between the community and the school, just me, myself. Anything that I heard, I would address. A lot of things I got fixed. If I saw something on Facebook, I would say, could you mind if I address that with the superintendent? Do you mind if I address that with the facilities manager? Oh, no, Diane, not at all. Bang, it would get done. And that's what I mean sometimes by liaison. When I hear things in the community, but I can't do that anymore because I'm not heard.
What were your thoughts on the override and just overall finance? Did you guys have any input? Anything to take away from that meeting? I won't put you on the spot here, Jim.
No, not at all. Not at all. I don't wanna speak out of turn either. I mean, there was some discussion even from last year. Really wasn't brought up the initial joint meeting that we had. I think, like Diane said, I think they wanted us as the Board of Selectmen to bring it up, which it's not my place to bring up. It's not my override, like we explained to them last year. I mean, I will support an override with the Narragansett Regional School District as long as it meets the right criteria and the right reasons why. And all those are accounted for, period.
And was this
Meaning-
relayed in the meeting that that's how we felt?
Not in public, it wasn't brought up publicly, this is just,
Yeah.
I think I relayed my message.
you might have.
Do you think I relayed my message?
I think I didn't say anything.
I don't remember exactly what I said.
Yeah, I didn't say anything, because at that
No,
point,
John did not say
I wanted to make sure I had all my ducks in a row, and like the answer, and like we said last year to Dr. Kazavan, I said, we spent, $6,333,000 last year, which was almost, 300+ thousands of dollars more than we spent the previous year. And their numbers and how they do their numbers, they say it's only 2.8%. Yeah, that's 2.8 for 22 million, 23 million. That's more, that's not to us, that's, you know,
On the overall, what they're allotted with the
Right.
state money as well as, yeah.
right, so I mean, I will support the needs of the school, I mean,
I love the
saying,
kids.
as long as all the dollars are there, I mean, right now, he did get some extra money because of the Medicaid, which is great, I think that's a great asset and a great avenue, you know, that the school districts receive. You know, but then going out and, you know, spending it right away on 3 positions, I mean, is that frugal at this point, knowing that we don't know what the utilization rates of the new school is gonna be? I
Right.
mean, lights, water, and sewer, which if that goes over $500,000, you know, you can see what how that's gonna absorb into the fiscal
So
budget.
is it the general consensus then, so it sounds like we're looking for, even as a taxpayer, exactly what a taxpayer would be looking for is, where is that override money going to go? What are they looking for? Where we had the override last year was for the firefighters
Mhm,
and the emergency
specifically,
services.
right.
That's what we were targeting, raising. That's kind of what we're looking for the school to kind of give us, to let us know, you know, this is what we're spending it on, this is what the override would be used for, and, you know, would you guys please support us in this initiative? And that's exactly what we're looking for.
And
as
we
a
would,
board.
and I think I would support that, as long as everything is, you know, again, I mean, I hear things just like Diane, just like everybody else does, that, you know, I mean, not that they're not frugal, I'm sure that they are, I think Dr.
They
Kozlov's
are.
doing a great job. But it just seems, by looking at it, kinda like what people are saying with us, how it looks like to us, like, oh my lord, you know, the town of Templeton, I mean, a new school, now, new police station, you guys just bought a new fire truck, a new ambulance next year,
Yeah.
another cruiser, I mean, you got 2 new,
Yeah, we're really
two
rolling
plow
in it
trucks.
over here.
I'm like, yeah, well, these are things that should have happened 10 years ago.
Yep.
Right, but they don't always look at it like that.
That's right.
And they're just looking at it as, wow,
Right.
what are you guys rolling in the money over there?
Are you not being fiscally responsible? Like, no, we are being fiscally responsible. We're looking at every avenue. We turned every stone unturned, as far as, you know, new dollars coming in and new revenue streams. But I think for the school, I think as long, again, I will support what their needs are, as long as that they can meet my satisfaction is where I think it's gonna go. And, you know, and again, looking at the school, you know, the bleachers were done, which they got the loan for, because they
They're
came in front of
beautiful.
us, which came out really great. But they also got a new scoreboard. They also got 2 new goalposts. They also got the complete, they had a complete siding job of the new, of the concession stand slash announcing booth. And they had a complete paving job of the entire back of the school.
I think, I don't know all the gory details about that. I don't think that was all coming straight out of their budget. I
I'm
think-
sure it wasn't either. I'm sure some of it was donated. I mean, but again, it's all about what people can see.
Yep.
So this is what people see, like, oh my lord, you got, you know, new school board, you got new posts, new goal posts, those aren't cheap. And then they were installed. Then you got the new siding around the, you know, and then all the new hot top and, I mean, that's what people see.
People, just like,
Perception's
they want
reality.
us to be transparent, and I think that we've done our best, and they want them to be transparent.
Okay. So then, Carter, if, I guess it's general consensus, Carter, do you think you could talk to Dr. Cassavant and have that specific conversation with him and let him know? Because you can hammer out all the more intricate stuff at a better pace than we can, to say, you know, this is what we're really looking for, to say, we'll support an override if we can get kind of a breakdown so that we can.
Do you think it's too early? It's too late now.
I've sent two messages.
Mm-hmm.
Message one was, I do think, well, with all due respect to Diane and to Dr. Cassavant, that they were talking past each other.
I saw that message
He
that
was
was on the
talking
exit survey.
about a cultural survey. What she wants is an exit survey.
Mhm.
Why are these people leaving, and what how can we assure, not to put words in your mouth, what I'm hearing is an exit survey of why are these people leaving, and are there things that we can do to get them
Keep 'em.
back? Because that means money, and if we can keep some of them, that's money, and then we don't need to tax everybody else as much. And so I did send that along, and I copied y'all on that.
I saw that.
The other message was just a technical change in the law with respect
Oh,
to
so you
how.
think the survey that
one-
he sent isn't what I was
I
requesting?
think you guys were
Mm.
talking different things,
I
I
don't
really, really do.
Yeah, I think that's what the email even stated, was that, yeah, what he had kind of provided you was just not even relevant to an exit survey.
It was a cultural survey.
Okay,
on
so
the
that,
environment.
was that just today?
No,
No,
this was,
this-
last
I
2 weeks
s-
ago, I think. Yeah.
Well, I sent it
Did I
out within
miss
a,
that completely?
I sent it out
Am I
within a
not getting all
couple
my
days
emails?
of the joint.
I don't
meeting.
always get Carter's emails.
I'll forward it to you,
I'll-
Diane, because I
Thank
have it
you,
in my-
because I'm
I'll
just
forward
not
it.
getting everything.
That's
And
all.
I've gone
I
through
don't
my
get them all on my phone,
emails.
but I get them on my Outlook at home, but I don't get all of them.
But I
on
don't
my
always
phone.
get on my computer. I use my phone for almost everything.
Well, Doug's saying he's not getting them all on his phone, but he does get them on his computer, so we'll try to sort that out.
Office 365
I'm
works.
sorry, so I basically
Improve that.
didn't see
That's
that.
correct, sir, that's correct.
Works very well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I
Yeah,
did,
throw that in there.
send him, some information on a technical change in the law, which we'll be bringing you all, as part of the legislative package. You'll recall last year, we had to be very careful, to not use any taxpayer money to push the override. We had to discuss
Yes.
everything with respect to,
Absolutely.
the town meeting warrant article, but I did find a change in the law that allows, if you adopt it, the community to issue a voter's guide, similar to what the Secretary of State does for this. So
Oh,
we provided that to them in case, and the other message that I kind of think I tried to pass along was, I think the board would be supportive if you need an override, but you're gonna need to say you need one and why you need it and what you need it for.
okay.
They're not gonna get out front of your budget planning. I mean, why would you? You don't know what they need yet.
That's right.
You don't know what they need it for yet, so why would you all take the first step?
We're
I
not.
don't know who's gonna take the first step, but I
Well, it should be us.
don't think
It
they
won't be
really
us.
know, until they can get a little deeper into their
It won't be
budget.
me.
Okay, so they're going to, I don't wanna use the word push it off, or the phrase push it off, but they're gonna wait until they have solid numbers to work with, rather than making a rough
I
estimate.
wouldn't be surprised if they just wanna have a better handle on where they're
Okay.
headed with the sense of direction.
And I would think that they wouldn't have like something more solid until House 1 in January.
You've got,
Or
you've got the
early
number, you're gonna get what you got this year, plus probably.
Oh, so they're gonna, so
$30
we're
a
ahead of the
kid.
game.
Right.
I'm sure that they can reasonably work out an estimated number. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not gonna get the exact dollar figure around, but if they say it came out to, whatever, X, Y, and Z, and it was X, Y, and Z plus
You
25.
can look at what the state's been able to do
Matter.
for chapter 70.
So they
the
also
last
have
couple
to figure
years.
out what's gonna be, estimated wise with the new school, because that is slated to open for the 2020,
Right.
school year. So they can look at
2019.
leads numbers, they can look at
It's 2019.
And I think, yes,
Fiscal.
2019,
Right.
2020
That's
school year.
right, that's right, you're
yeah,
right.
they'll be
Oh,
opening
don't
up.
scare me, John, that I just said something completely
No, you
wrong.
said it
That was the reason why it was gonna be an astronomical numbers, because they need to get this
Yes.
school year through, but they also need to support the school
Open.
coming,
Right.
and
Open.
we don't wanna have to go back, and they don't wanna have to go back, and I'm sure Phillipston, they're probably gonna have to go for something like this, that they don't wanna go back again the following year for the same sort of issue. So if they can get
Right,
it in a one and
except-
done, in a reasonable amount
Right,
of
and that
money.
was why they wanted Phillipston to kind of be on board with the school here, because they weren't anticipating,
Mhm.
like numbers, like no one anticipated what it would cost to open the new school. I'm like, and I would have thought that they would have already had those numbers already, and Phillipston said, no.
And I had a conversation with the woman on the select board down in Phillipston as well, and when she had was first put on, she knew this was gonna be something that they were gonna have to do as well to make sure it was feasible. And I think that was that joint committee there with the school committee makes sense to do, because Phillipston really needs to be part of this conversation, and they need to be on board with it, and I think everybody
But
needs to.
they don't wanna have any part of the new school. They
Right.
said no, and they said no again, and then they had to say no again. They don't want anything to do with that. They're done.
And so that's gonna be the other
That's done.
conversational
They
piece
just-
is.
I think sometimes if they could get out of the regional agreement with the middle school, high school, they would.
I think Carter would as well, right? Don't answer that question. Don't answer that, please.
How do you
Regionalization
feel,
is
Cameron,
both
about the
channels.
override?
I would say as an alumni of Narragansett, and I think I did well, I think some of the teachers would disagree with me, but I genuinely like that school. I think it's a pride of Templeton. I think that a lot of the, I call them townies that live in this community, it's a pride of their eye, you know, a lot of the former alumni football players. I think, you know, people in 20, 30 years, when they go somewhere else, they remember they're at Narragansett Regional. So I'm fully in support of that school district. However, I agree with you guys on the consensus that we need to make sure we get a qualified number, plus or minus, and we need to make sure we understand what it's going for, so that when we as a board decide to support or not support it, have something to kind of look forward to, or look at with a number. And I think the school committee can identify with that as well, because
Yeah.
they're taxpayers as well, and they represent an organization, and they need to know what they're supporting, so. But I think if that is ever going to get passed with that school district, and if there's not gonna be any more strife, political strife in Templeton, I think both boards need to come to an agreement on that, at least at an 80% majority of both boards, and all three boards, Phillipston included,
Mhm.
so.
I agree.
I think that's the plan forward, but I think sooner rather than later is our best option.
Absolutely. I think that's, they're, you know, to have, town halls and to have, you know, to get out the information and to really have that be talked about. And we, you know, I believe that, you know, when we did the override, I think that we could have talked about ours a little bit sooner. And I think that it was hard to say, you know, that we needed an override, and that, you know, I know that I was nervous about that, you know. So I think the sooner that gets done, and for it to not be a white elephant, and just say it and stick to it and know that you have to have that, and because we all know it's coming, but, you know, what is it? I mean,
Right.
they need to come out with it. What is it?
Yeah, I think we'll end on that note.
Explain
Promote
why.
it. And,
Um,
right.
Before
And
we
stand
end,
behind
I
that.
do want to get out in front of all you guys, and I'll say it on TV as well. So I'm going to be moving December 1st to Boston. I'll be moving to Brighton, Alston area. I will be retaining property here in Templeton, and I just don't believe that I'll be maintaining residence in Templeton. So effective December 1st, I will more than likely have to resign from this position. So I wanted to let you guys all know that first as public, and to get that out. So I apologize that I haven't been able to serve the full term, but I've been offered a lucrative opportunity in Boston, and I think as a young man, it makes most sense for me to take that opportunity while I'm young and single. So I just want to say it's been a pleasure to serve with all you guys, and I'll still be here for you guys if you need anything in the future or anything of that nature, and I hope you guys would offer the same to me.
Good luck to
Absolutely.
you, Cameron.
Yeah, just make sure you turn your keys in.
I don't have my key, so.
It's Sean?
So you don't have to worry about that security risk. I won't be locking in anytime
Where do we
soon.
send your last check?
That's right.
0.00.
With your zero, but thanks, Karen, for all your help, and I tell you, your knowledge was well taken here, and you will definitely be missed, and we'll have to put another open seat on the ballot for May.
Yeah, that would be a big, that would be 3 seats, correct?
Yep.
You,
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. November,
think we have
December,
6
January,
months.
February, March, April. Wow. You're
Just-
lucky that just meets the
Yes,
mark.
it does, 6 months.
Oh, I timed it great, didn't I?
Yeah, you did time it excellent,
Yes.
you timed it excellent,
'Cause
thanks.
otherwise, we would have
Meant
to
to
have a
do that.
special election.
We would, which would cost the town a couple $1,000s anyways. Great, well, I mean, we still have a couple more meetings before
Yeah,
December
I
1st,
will be in
so.
attendance, but I just want to let you guys know so I didn't drop the bomb on you guys.
Do you wanna do like an out speech on the way out, like?
If you guys would have me, so I sure.
No,
would.
no, I was just asking.
You guys want me to waste some more of your time?
No, I'm good. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a second?
Second?
Oh, great. Kim?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming and playing.